the microphone was off. I'm introing this bad boy up. It is pay-per-view fight week, UFC 322, and I'm like, something's off. Something's off. I'm not sure what's going on, but something's off. And then I just kind of there's if you guys can see it, you can see it on camera. There's the fun little green light right there. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's red. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, my degenerates, fight fans. What is up and how is everybody doing? We're talking UFC 322 this week, coming off of an absolutely insane UFC 311. The Apex just keeps on delivering this year. If you can think of anything that might possibly happen, I mean, kick a goat in the nuts and then ritual sacrifice it in the middle of the octagon, it's probably going to happen next week. Like we keep seeing just the most ridiculous shit, and it's absolutely insane. Now, I will tell you guys, I'm coming off of a slight L. As you can see, no baby blues, no diehard stimulus check shirt this week. I have to go back and actually rewatch all of UFC 311 because, I'm sorry, UFC 111. UFC Vegas 111. There we go. Took the third time's the charm. I got it. It's actually wifey's birthday weekend this past weekend. So we actually went out to the casino. I had a couple Long Island iced teas. I lost a couple extra $100. You know, it was one of those kinds of nights, right? Got kicked in the ass over at the blackjack table, which, by the way, you guys know me, right? Like the second that I live bet a UFC fighter, they get like put in a guillotine or like floored by a big overhand. You know how that works for me. I am cursed beyond belief. It doesn't just stop at MMA. It follows me literally everywhere. I had triple aces. So I had the like split aces twice back to back. And then of course, you know, you're supposed to make money in those situations. I lost all three fucking hands. I've never understood blackjack. People sell me all these stories about how they've had just incredible runs. They make thousands of dollars playing blackjack. Every time I get in that moment where you're like, oh, this half the bankroll's on the table. This is the big one. They end up with a 20 and I just go home empty-handed, pockets turned out. I hate blackjack. Anyway, so, you know, moral of the story, I actually was out on Saturday night, so I got to watch the main event on my phone, but I missed everything from the first 2 minutes of the Mayra Bueno Silva fight until the main event. So I didn't get to see any of that shit. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it all. It really all came down. My whole weekend came down to I needed freaking Ronnie Barcelos, 40-year-old ass Ronnie Barcelos, not to beat Ricky Simone, which I was pretty confident Ricky Simone was winning that fight. He didn't. I don't know why. I don't know how. I haven't watched the fight yet. So I'm just disappointed that my parlay lost. Or I needed Jackson McVeigh to finish things off in round one, which in that one, I couldn't be happier with my plus 600 round one sprinkle on that one. He had Zach Reese hurt. He dropped him with a body shot. I mean, like it looked like Zach Reese was done. And then we get a nut shot and a good 5-minute break and McVeigh adrenaline dumps and Reese takes over in round two. Utterly disappointing. That's all my night came down to. I do wish in hindsight, you guys, you know, I'm not a fan of Miles Johns. I wish instead of using Ricky Simone from our parlay, I had used Daniel Marcos for the parlay. That would have been on brand for me. I didn't like how wide that line was, but it was kind of the same situation. If I had done that for my two-legger parlay, I would have felt a whole hell of a lot better about it. And obviously, you know, would have cashed. But weirdness in the main event again, another strange stoppage. Morales inside the distance truthers. You guys were all over it. I'm glad I jumped on the Padilla train because with all the weirdness and Bonfim's shoulder and the weigh-in, and that one felt good to get in on. I wish I had jumped on it sooner because we talked about that one last week on Monday. We talked about that one. I liked it at like plus 170. I considered taking a shot at it, but I hesitated. I still got a little plus money. He was obviously the right side, but, you know, I could have cashed much, much nicer at a better number if I just had, you know, sacked up and pulled the trigger earlier in the week. The dog of the week, though, Christian Leroy Duncan, came through with flying colors by knockout. I told you guys I couldn't prove that Tulio had cardio issues, but I was suspicious. I thought he had cardio issues. He gets the counter shot through from CLD. So, you know, all in all, not so bad. We're round robining the props now. We hit a 2-legger on that one. So just, slight negative on the prop parlay situation, which, if you're almost breaking even on that, it's not so bad. Can't complain too much. But I'm rambling. I got thrown off a little bit by the microphone thing here, you guys. So I do apologize for that. I'm not going to ramble any further. I'm going to get this week's guest in here with a quickness because he is one of the best, you guys. And I mean that just bar none. One of the sharpest, the most stats, one of the best eyes, great gambling record, great live better. I mean, if you guys don't know Art C, you absolutely should. So welcome to the show, Mr. Electrocute. Art, what's going on, buddy?
Thanks for having me again, Clint. I love breaking down these cards. Couldn't be with a nicer guy there. So ready to get into it. Yeah, thanks for all the shoutouts. We're doing well this year.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad we connected and we had so much fun the first time we did it. It was like, all right, that's it. Like we're just gonna keep doing this shit. So glad you enjoy it. Thank you very much again for coming on the show. My man Dan Levy from Half the Battle says an hour early, and I forgot to announce it last week. You guys, that's on me. That's my bad. Daylight savings has rolled, and for most of you in the world, that means you're going to roll with the clocks. I live in Arizona, which we don't believe in that bullshit, apparently. So we don't roll with the clocks. But what it does is it puts me in an unfortunate situation where this is the time slot that works best for my personal life. So the show moves about every, 6 to 9 months whenever daylight savings flips for everybody else in the world. I'm still doing it at the same time for me, though. So, you guys can all either get with the program, blame Arizona, whichever way you want to handle it. But that's the reason for the time change on the show, you guys. So we'll be 6:30 p.m. Eastern moving forward, until next year when they decide to roll us back the other way again. Art, my man, we were talking about it briefly behind the scenes. I kind of recapped last week's UFC card just a little bit. Did you have any thoughts on that? How'd you do betting? How's your year going betting? Any thoughts from you before we kick off UFC 322?
Last week was all right. I focused more on the live betting aspect. I didn't have a ton of time to tape the cards, so sometimes I just attack it live. Some of the pre-fight bets didn't go my way. I thought that Pennington would have a little bit closer fight. We did pretty good in the main fight with Bonfim. I try not to buy into these hypes, with the shoulder injury the week before the Bulgarian move, right? I don't really know. I'm not part of an underground syndicate that really has that access. So when I see like the rumors about the shoulder and Bonfim, I was like, man, I kind of want to go against the value because I'm getting Bonfim at a good price, and I don't know. So a lot of weird stuff for the last couple of weeks, but I for the overall year, it's been an amazing year, up over 350 units betting on UFC, and that's just pre-fight, not live betting. So I'm hoping to end the year off good. One of the cards, this pay-per-view, and then we decided to go to the very last pay-per-view of the month in Vegas, so I'll be there. So hoping to kill that card as well, cross over that 400 unit mark for the year.
Plus 400 units in a year is unheard of, man. That would just be absolutely insane. Plus 300 units for a year is unheard of already. So absolutely smashing it. Love to hear it. And hopefully you can help me straighten my shit out so we all make some money here this weekend. We'll talk about the UFC card here in just a second. My friend Dan, yes, you can blame Dan Murgliata. That is completely acceptable. Absolutely. Pin it on that guy. First and foremost, you guys, please check out cloudbet.com. There's some big PFL cards coming up here. And as you know, they are powered by CloudBet, just like the Die Hard MMA podcast is. So when you sign up using promo code Die Hard MMA, they've got a welcome bonus up to $2,500 for new users. And then because they sponsor the PFL, you guys don't have to worry about downloading an app. You guys don't have to worry about signing up for another streaming service. PFL is embedded straight into the Fight Center on cloudbet.com. So make sure you guys get signed up and go ahead and hit that up over there using promo code Die Hard MMA or the link in the description below, because it's right there for you, pinned and ready to go. It is pay-per-view fight week, everybody, and we are about to go ahead and get started. So smash that like button, share the show, and let's freaking roll. Next up, we have got Viacheslav Borshchev taking on Matheus Camilo, the Jaguar. Man, Slava Claus getting into it here with another young, hungry gun. Art, it really is upsetting for me because Slava's become kind of a fan favorite. He's somebody all of us kind of love to death. He goes out there and he fights his ass off every single time. 33 years old. We all know he's the striking coach at Team Alpha Male. We all know his his lust for violence and his ability to persevere. He gets hurt all the freaking time, but he manages to keep coming. He gets taken down 17 times by every single opponent he faces because they just don't feel like standing with him. And then he's been submitted a couple of times on the ground because even if you ground and pound him to the point that he's a bloody mess, he just doesn't go unconscious. So he ends up having to give up his neck to be able to escape. So guys like Terrence McKinney, Chase Hooper, they're able to get him out of there with submissions, but he's very difficult to knock out. In fact, nobody's ever done it. And he's been in there with people like Makhachev, who we know hits hard, and Mike Davis, and, Nazim Sadikov couldn't get him out of there, which was insane, that draw decision that he had a year or so ago. So we all love Slava, but at this point, he's kind of become a little bit of a resume builder. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and as mentioned, 2 of those losses were inside the distance. The most recent one was Terrence McKinney coming in here and taking him out in round 1 in less than a minute. So it was already a struggle for him. It already looked like he had some holes in his game, but now that the blueprint is out, people are just not wasting any time. His opponent here, Matheus, the Jaguar, 9-3. He's 24 years old. And you guys, if that sounds familiar to you, it's because we broke down his fights just a couple weeks ago. In fact, 2 weeks ago, he was supposed to take on Al-Sawadi on October 25th for UFC 321. They have rolled him over with a new opponent here. Something weird happened with Al-Sawadi. That fight got pulled at the last minute. And now he gets Viacheslav Borshchev in the spot. I was very, very tempted to take a flyer on Al-Sawadi in that fight, mostly because Jaguar's first fight in the UFC was that short notice bump in with Gabe Green, where he got taken down, out wrestled, choked out. It was pretty obvious that he had a bit of a hole in his grappling game. Al-Sawadi, I thought, might be able to do a little bit of that to him, and we never got that opportunity. Now the UFC is going, you know what? Let's scrub that. Let's not bother putting an L on this kid's record. Let's not give him a grappler. Let's give him a striker. Let's have a fun, entertaining fight, someone who he can get out there and bang with. And I think that's kind of the point in this fight, right? Is both these guys probably should look to stand and trade for the most part. If anybody's got a grappling edge, it's going to be the Jaguar. So if he wants to get a win, if he wants to get on track for his UFC run here, just take this guy down. Like that's the move. Everyone knows that's the move. Take him down, and you can get on top of him and submit him. I'm not 1,000% sold yet on Camilo. I know a couple of people were really high on him going into that last fight. I was a little lukewarm at best on Al-Sawadi. So I don't really like this fight, man. I'm going to lean on fading Slavaclaus just because we know that massive Achilles heel in his game of the grappling is something that can be exposed. But if this kid decides to stand and bang with him, like we could see a show from Slavaclaus here. What do you make of this fight, man?
Yeah, a little bit surprised at the line, and you made a couple of good points. I think you're hanging your hat on the defensive grappling of Slavaclaus, and it's fine, right? He's been taken down and sort of dominated by Chase Hooper, but I go back to that Chase Hooper fight, and a couple of things that surprised me. One is obviously Chase Hooper getting a knockdown on Slavaclaus. I think it's more of a he wasn't expecting it, got caught. And then I found that Chase Hooper, his ground control is actually, top tier, kind of elite. And Slavaclaus was doing a lot good work getting out of positions. Just Chase Hooper was beating him to the punch, right? He was just like one step ahead. But Slava was always doing the right moves, right escapes. He did get ground and pounded, and you get, obviously mounted. I'm not saying that he didn't get destroyed on the ground. I'm just saying in the grappling exchanges, it was back and forth there for a while. And even the finish there, the Dariush choke or the Bravo choke, I don't think Slavaclaus actually tapped to that, right? So they ended up stopping the fight. They gave Chase Hooper the win, but I kind of put an asterisk because he was fighting out of it. He seems to be improving some of the grappling as we go. The Terrence McKinney one, that's Terrence McKinney. I think Slava landed a low kick and sort of forced McKinney to grapple in that one, and then ended up putting him in mounted guillotine. That's what McKinney does. But overall, I'm kind of impressed with Slavaclaus's defensive grappling. And you talk about it being a weakness. I definitely agree. And if you're going to attack Slavaclaus, it's probably through the ground there, right? And Matheus Camilo, the Jaguar. If you go down to his regional tape, that's actually what he's actually pretty good at, is the grappling, and he wants to grapple. Just more recently, he's sort of fallen in love with the striking a little bit. But I think on the feet for Camilo, what he does is he stands orthodox, and he really only throws outside low kicks, right? And he only throws them from orthodox, and he's really trying to find a home for his right hand. He has big power in the right hand, right? So I think if he falls in love with the striking here, I think Slava Klaus is very live because Slava can switch stances. He can kick from both stances, mixing leg kicks with things like that, right? And Camilo will throw the low kick against the southpaw, but I just think Slava has way more variety of strikes. Better counterability. But again, if Camilo gets the fight down to the ground, it could look like completely different. But the reason I talk about Slava's defensive grappling is that I do think that he can get back up. He had moments against Chase Hooper, he had moments against Tom Nolan where the grappling, sort of got back up, sort of thing. And you talked about Slava's super durable, so he has been sort of rocked, but he sort of works his way out of it. I could see it going to decision quite a bit, but I kind of lean Slava here as a dog play. I'm just not sold on Camilo. And if you go look at the Gabe Green was sort of fading back a little bit, just threw a little check right hook and actually dropped Camilo. Wasn't actually counted as a knockdown, but he went down to one knee. He started grappling in it. So I'm not convinced that Camilo's chin is completely okay. Hasn't been finished by knockout, but he has a couple of submission losses. I just think that there's a path here for a Borshchev or Slava Klaus here. I'm not really willing to jump in at Camilo here at Juice against a proven veteran. It's a big step up for Camilo here. And we saw him take a step up against Gabe Green and not get there. And I think it's an even bigger, like another step up here against Slava here.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are kind of seeing this one the same. It's really sketchy to me, man. It's tough to trust Slava at this point, but I get taking a flyer on him at dog odds against a kid that's 0-1 in the UFC. So far we have absolutely nothing to pin on this kid as far as to mark him as being UFC caliber. And we know Slava Klaus's get-up game is fantastic. So yeah, I like it, man. I'm going to take the coward's way out, like as far as like a show pick goes. I'll say that I'll side with Camilo, but let's see where this line goes. He's opening up at like minus 155 or something. The wider this gets, the more I'll be interested in Slava. And frankly, I think this would be a good live bet spot because if Slava does get taken down in round one, shucks a couple of them, jump in. At that point, like if he's not going to get controlled on the ground, he's going to be looking to bang it out on the feet, and we like his edge there. So I definitely think that might be a good way to approach this. And shout out Mystic in the chat, says, Clint, you need to take notes from this guy. Mystic, no shit. Why do you think I brought him on the show? Like, I did no research whatsoever. I have no idea who Art is, and he just happened to agree to come on the podcast. Obviously, I will take notes. And yes, actually, that's a good comment. But that is completely unintentional that we'll get better viewership with, Monday Night Football being a little bit later due to the time change. It just kind of happens. But it doesn't hurt. It definitely doesn't hurt. All right, guys, next fight up, you got Chepe and Mariscal taking on Pat Sabatini. Chepe, the machine gun, is just on an absolute freaking tear right now, man. It's funny because I've gone to war with Chepe, but I've kind of tried to zigzag with him a little bit. And in hindsight, I guess I should have just pounded, bets on Chepe ever since he got to the UFC. Guys, undefeated in the UFC, 5-0, and just doing exactly what he needs to do every single time out. I like to describe him as like a miniature Chris Curtis. I love the way he strikes. I love the way he's heavy on his feet. I love the way he shucks off takedowns. He's hard to get to the ground. He's harder to control. So when you do get him down to the ground, he's got good submission defense. He works his way on up to the feet. I like the way he attacks the body. I really like Chepe, man. It turns out he's a guy that is super UFC caliber at 33 years old. Now, that's not going to last forever. He's in a smaller weight class. He's a little bit long in the tooth. We know those guys tend to kind of fade off and fall off after a little bit. But right now, seems like he's kind of fighting his best fights. He's hitting his stride, man. Pat Sabatini, 20-5. He is 35 years old, and he's kind of the complete opposite story. Pat got knocked out one time, way long time ago, and I've seen him get bopped around and get, rocked and stuff by people, and I just went, man, this guy's chinny. I want nothing to do with him. I wrote Pat Sabatini off way early. Just earmarked him as chinny and said, call it a day. And that's turned out to be a really, really bad call because his grappling, I mean, when we talk about the nuclear option, you think Francis Ngannou, you think I can just one punch this guy, take his head off, it's over. I can always bail my way out of a fight. Pat's grappling game is pretty much that same caliber, man. It is nuclear option level. He can take people down. His submissions are incredible. He's got great cardio. The Yo Anderson Brito fight, man, that was the one where I was like, I've got this explosive little Brazilian dude that's going to be able to get up if he wants to and then punch you in the jaw, and there's just no way he's going to be able to handle that. Pat smothered him. Like, Pat did whatever he wanted to Anderson Brito in that fight. And he out hustled JSP, which that, I had way higher expectations of JSP. So that one's unfortunate for me, but choked him out super early. He's staying active. He's doing a whole bunch of grappling contests. So we know he's keeping sharp in that area. The thing is, I still just can't trust him as far as his durability goes, because that floor can drop out at any point in time. Pat's a slight favorite in this spot, you guys, minus 140 or so. And I am tempted, Art, to roll the dice on Chepe here, because if there is anybody who's gonna shuck a takedown, if there's anybody who's gonna dig for underhooks and will hit you with a counter on your way in or hit you with an uppercut while you're looking to level change, I think I could trust Chepe to do that. And he's got some decent power in his hands. He also doesn't slow down. He doesn't give up on himself the way Brito did, where he just kind of accepted that he's going to be on his back the rest of the night. I think if, the fight starts on round 2, the fight starts in round 3, like, Chepe is still going to go out there and fight his ass off every single time. I haven't decided if I want to pull the trigger on it. He's not dog of the week. I just kind of ride with Chepe in this type of spot, but I am admittedly fully biased against Pat Sabatini and have been for a long time. So I'm probably not the guy to ask. Art, what are you doing with this one, man? What do you think of this fight?
I'm pretty high on Sabatini as overall. Like, I like him as a fighter. He kind of reminds me of Sean Brady with just like the elite grappling. When he gets top control, it's very hard to get out from underneath him. And you brought up the Joe Anderson Brito fight, where that, he just controlled him, I think, for like 13 minutes out of a 15-minute fight. It was just absolute, one-sided fight there, right? And he's been finding ways to get the takedown. So obviously, Pat Sabatini, his path to victory here is through grappling and takedowns. So I start on the Chepe side, and I look at his takedown defense, right? And he hasn't really fought any real grapplers in the UFC, right? Ricardo Ramos got him down once, Damon Jackson got him down once, and Charrier actually got him down twice. Had a little bit of top time there for Charrier there. And everything that we saw in the UFC has been Chepe is able to get back to his feet. He has really good scrambling ability, doesn't really settle on the bottom. He's back and forth. He'll even mix in his own takedowns. So I thought, this guy has a shot. Let me go back and see some regionals tape and stuff, right? Did you know that this is a rematch from Pat Sabatini? They fought in 2018, Pat Sabatini and Chepe. And that fight, went back and forth. There was a ton of scrambling in that one, and it was very, very close. And I could see it going pretty much the same way. And I even went back further. He fought Bryce Mitchell, and he lost to Bryce Mitchell. But Bryce Mitchell really struggled with the control and the takedowns there as well. Bryce Mitchell was on bottom. Chepe was on bottom. It was a very close fight there. So Chepe has a way of making this fight dirty. He's not just going to settle here like Brito and give up, a lot of time of control. And then when it's on the feet, Chepe's busier. He trains at altitude. He has more volume. I kind of favor Chepe on the feet there, right? So if Chepe can make this a brawl and sprawl and brawl and keep the fight standing, I think he is very live. I don't think that Pat Sabatini is going to get to a dominant position where he finds a submission. He could, right? But Chepe just seems to be good enough and savvy enough to create these scrambles, keep guys in front of you, fight out of these chokes, whatnot. So I think the fight goes to decision a lot of the times, and then it's just a matter of what do you see, or what do the judges see more? Is it the damage from the striking from Chepe when it's standing, or is it the the 2-3 minutes of control from Sabatini when it gets down to the ground there, right? I kind of favor Chepe to do more damage on the feet. So I do lean that way. If I have to pick a side, I'm going to go Chepe because the damage. But I think it's going to be very close. I was pretty high on Sabatini. I thought I was going to play Sabatini, but after tape and going back into the regionals, Chepe just impresses me with the takedown defense, and it's a different type of fight, this one. So I can see it being close. I think I see a split decision type of thing, and I could go sort of either way. So I think the odds are about right where it is.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm glad you mentioned that this was a rematch. I forgot to mention that at the top of the preview. So thank you very much for commenting on that, man. Yeah, so as we know, rematches tend to go with the guy who won the first fight. They tend to go with the younger fighter. Both those things point towards Chepe being the side. And frankly, I thought I was about to look, open mouth, insert foot. I was going to be sitting over here chewing on my shoe while you told me that Pat Sabatini was the smash play of the week. So I'm just excited that you said that it's probably, a close fight and the odds look about right. That gives me at least a little bit more faith in Chepe if I decide to get to the window and pull the trigger. But yeah, man, that's the way I'm leaning. I think you're probably right. I like the way Chepe scrambles. And my guy Dan Half the Battle says, what do you think about their improvements since the first time they fought? And I think that is a good question. I think that Pat Sabatini has streamlined his game. He knows where his bread is buttered. He knows he has to get the grappling going. He doesn't play around on the feet. He learned that lesson the hard way a couple of times. So I do like that he takes kind of that laser pointed focus to getting the fight to the ground. And similarly, man, Chepe just knows how to win fights. And that's something that one of the times I lost big against Chepe was I took Morgan Charrier. Now, that was a split decision. That was a close fight. And I will stand on the fact that I felt like Morgan Charrier won that fight. I felt like that one went the wrong way. But the judges like what Chepe does. And that's just, for me, that's like a big piece of this here is that Chepe was kind of one of those almost journeyman level fighters and then turned it around. And now he is on a 5-fight UFC win streak. I think he knows what the judges are looking for. I think he knows what he's got to do to get the win and get his hand raised. So for me, that's kind of the biggest thing that stands out from their first fight to this fight is I feel like Chepe's got a good grasp on, what the judges are looking for.
And Chepe's always like on the front foot. He's always being aggressive and stuff, right? And he's throwing volume, he's throwing damage and stuff, right? So that's what the judges look at, right? Against Ramos, he threw 162 strikes. 4 out of his 5 UFC fights, he's thrown over 100 significant strikes. So he knows where to do, like keep it standing, throw volume, throw damage. Pat Sabatini's not going to outpoint him on the feet there. So I see a path. The chat mentioned it, Chepe also has a black belt in judo, which helps him with the clinch situations, defending the trips and outside trips. So yeah, I can see it being pretty close. In terms of who's improved, I think Mariscal's gotten better. So is Sabatini. I think Sabatini's grappling's always been pretty good. I just don't know if his striking has improved that much because he simply just relies on the grappling. Whereas Mariscal, I think, does a better job of like mixing it in and again the defensive grappling, which really hasn't been tested in the UFC. So I can't say it's been improved or not, but this would be the real test here against Sabatini to really see.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Great question, Dan. Appreciate you, man. And Dixon, see, this is where, man, all this stuff going on right now, this is the kind of thing that's got me like, I get twisted in knots about this, dude, because I don't ever make the right decision in these situations. Chepe is managed by Jason House, who is under the FBI's microscope right now. Just saying. And see, Dixon, that's the kind of thing where like, did somebody have something? Is that the reason the Morgan Charrier fight went his way? Does he have connections? Was there a handshake? And I ask those kinds of questions, and I always shout out Liam with that kind of stuff. Liam Picks Fights, a regular guest here on the show. He dives deep into that kind of stuff, and he's got a pretty good nose for it. I can't ever sniff it out. And the second that I start worrying about the corruption and who's going to this and who's going to that and who's got the deal that's under the table, like as soon as I start thinking about any kind of that stuff, I will think myself into a hole and I will never come out of it. So I have to keep it X's and O's. I have to trust my eyes. And I shouldn't even do that because I'm having an absolutely god awful year, but that's why I can't go down that path. So for me, it's Chepe or pass. We'll keep it at that. Next up, we've got the machine, Malcolm Wellmaker, taking on Cody Haddon. I know my guy Dan Levy in the chat is excited to talk about this one. Can't wait to hear his take on this one a bit later as well. Man, Malcolm Wellmaker, I just talked about Chepe being like a mini version of Chris Curtis. Well, Malcolm Wellmaker is like a mini Alex Pereira at this point, except it's the right hook instead of the left hook. Like he just has, man, nuclear option. Let's go to that term. He hits so hard. I mean, these guys at 135 pounds, you don't usually have that kind of power. He's coming off of back-to-back fights where it was round 1, and the second he touched these guys, they absolutely collapsed on themselves. Now, Cameron Simon is known to being a little bit over-aggressive. He's been knocked out before, but it took Peyton Talbot, my personal favorite prospect at 135 pounds to put him down. And Wellmaker did the same dang thing to him. And it was even faster, which is like arguably you could say it was even more impressive. So like my eyes perked up immediately. And Chris Moutinho, he's got 5 knockout losses, so we can't get too excited about that. But at the same time, his claim to fame is the fact that he went, a long time with Sean O'Malley. Now, obviously, O'Malley was in there making TikTok clips and aura farming, and instead of actually fighting to win and stuff like that. But his whole thing has been being durable, and the fact that he got flatlined that quickly, like, just impressive as hell. So now you're getting Malcolm Wellmaker with a step up in competition. He's taking on Cody Haddon, who is 8-1, 27 years old, another one of these young guns in their prime. And the UFC is just, they are all over this right now, man. I'll be honest. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine with some of these guys, because it seems like they're throwing these young prospects at each other immediately. And it's like, that's fun. But with these two guys, I would love to get them both a little bit more, put this fight together with some stakes in a year or two. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But it's gonna be a fun fight. I had to go back and take a look at Cody Haddon a little bit. He beat Dan Argueta in his UFC debut, which I was, again, wrongfully a little bit high on Dan Argueta. I like his cardio. I like his wrestling. But this kid was a 3-time national junior boxing champion. He has a loss to Steve Erceg back in the day, which he fought pretty well on. If memory serves, I didn't go back and rewatch that fight again before this preview, but I did when he was making his UFC debut. I like his forward pressure. I like the way he mixes up his attacks. He finishes his combos with body shots, with knees. He's got a great jab on him. This is going to be a real test for Malcolm Wellmaker, because this is a guy who will have defense, who will be able to get on his level skill-wise as far as trying to strike with him for 15 minutes. And it's going to come down to whether or not Wellmaker is able to strike at that level for an extended period of time, which we haven't seen because he keeps icing people. So I'm curious what we're going to find out about Malcolm Wellmaker. Or if he lands that right hook, he might just go out there and dead another guy. And then it'll be like, oh man, doesn't matter. Like, generation level power, right? So we'll see on this one. I lean slight favorite, Malcolm Wellmaker. I'm hyped on this kid. And I'm looking forward to what he does next. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, I think I got to stick with Malcolm Wellmaker. We're 2-0 on the kid, and I think, why get off the train at this point? Unless I've got a real reason to jump off, I'm not going to.
I mean, I get it, man. Wellmakers look pretty impressive, right? And 3 back-to-back knockouts, all right hooks. He definitely has the power in his hands and stuff. And I think after the Simon fight, he won a bonus, where it was enough to go full time, right? So you expect some major improvements since working part time and being a part time fighter to going full time, right? So that it's obviously there. So for me, in terms of a betting angle, though, so it's hard to get much tape out of 3 right hook knockouts in a row. And Chris Mutino, let's be honest, he was brought in to lose. He was front of in Atlanta, in his Wellmaker's hometown, and like you said, he touched him and went out. Cameron Simon, nice prospect, but again, he went out as well. And then Adam Brownhold was on Dana White Contender Series. So I go back and I watch the Chase Boutel fight, the Taylor Moore fight. The kind of things, the only negative things I will say about Wellmaker is that he's not a big volume guy. He looks for the right hook, right? And he spams those outside low kicks. But he does keep his hands down a little bit low. He sort of tries to roll with the punches a little bit, kind of like flashy, where he throws his right hands and then he's trying to like roll with the counter that comes by. And again, it's not big volume, and he's really just looking to throw the right hand. And again, he can strike from orthodox and southpaw, so the kicks come from both ways. But I found that he gave up his back quite a bit in the regional tapes. He did get taken down by, I think, Bootwell, gave up the back more as well. They aren't, obviously the top of the top guys. So I make it a point to say, I saw that in tape that he gave up his back. So I go to the Cody Haddon side, and man, he looks impressive to me, man. You talked about the one loss to Steve Erceg. That was his 3rd professional MMA fight, and Erceg really had a tough time holding him down. And we know how good he is in the scramble and the grappling. We saw against Argueta. Argueta went 4 of 24 in takedowns, only 4 minutes control. And Haddon's, he's crazy volume. He comes forward. He threw 280 strikes against Dan Argueta, who went 4 for 24 in takedowns, right? So there's a lot of takedown attempts. There's a lot of time there. He still threw 280 strikes. So for me, I like Haddon's forward pressure. He throws multiple combos almost all the time. And, he seems to have a pretty good chin. He got, and I sort of give him the cardio advantage here. So he does also mix in the grappling. You touched on him being a Golden Gloves winner. I believe he has a background in grappling as well. I think he did it all. I think he started with Taekwondo and then he went to Muay Thai, then BJJ. He has like almost all the credentials. So he's very well rounded. And for me, it's just I haven't seen enough on tape for Wellmaker, and I see some paths here for Haddon. So, Dan in the chat talked about Wellmaker's power. That's obviously I give him the big power advantage, and I give him the maybe durability. It just hasn't been tested. It's sort of an unknown there, right? And you talked about some of the takedown defense. So but on the other side, I think Haddon has the volume advantage. We talked about how Wellmaker can be somewhat low volume at times. He's trying to throw one punch, looking for the right hand counter. And I talked about how he exits the pocket with his hands down. With Haddon throwing multiple punch combos, I can see him clipping him at the end of the combo. Wellmaker thinks the combo's done or 1-2, slip, and he's out of there trying to roll with it. But Haddon throwing multiple punches, I think that can catch him off guard. And I think when they're standing at range, I think Wellmaker throws kicks, Haddon throws kicks. You talked about Haddon throwing knees as well. I think Haddon can catch a leg kick here and get the fight down to the ground, whereas I don't think Wellmaker wants to get the fight down to the ground. So I think the grappling, just the threat of the grappling will open up some of the striking. I think if Haddon does get down to the ground with Wellmaker giving up his back, that the submission is live for Haddon. So I see a lot of paths to victory here for Cody Haddon. And, I was expecting the public and the line to open up Wellmaker a big favorite. Kind of surprised that the market was with me opening up Haddon the favorite. Now it's moved the other way with the market shifting it. So I sort of believe Haddon's the side. I've been waiting to see where the market goes. He opened up favorite. Now it's getting dog money. And look, I just don't see enough from Wellmaker. I think there is a time to fade him. I think that this could possibly be the time. I'm impressed with what I see from Haddon, and it's not like a Chris Moutinho who has no power. He has a lot of ways to victory here. So I think it can be a competitive fight. Kind of looking at a total on this one as well, but I think it can be back and forth. I don't blame you for taking the Wellmaker side. I just seem to go contrarian sometimes when there's not enough tape.
No, I hear you. I think fading overhyped prospects pays well in MMA. I'm with you. I was surprised that this line opened up where it did, and it's starting to widen even further the other way, man. Wellmaker's up to like minus 160 in some places. I would be on the Wellmaker side. I have not locked in a bet for this one yet, and the wider it gets, the less I'm interested. This is where, like, if we're getting close to a pick'em, minus 120, minus 130, maybe even minus 140. As we get up to minus 160, minus 170, that's where we're getting a little bit out of pocket for me. I feel like this could be a tough fight. I feel like this could be a close fight. I do expect Wellmaker to get his hand raised. And man, if the stat sheet shows round 2 KO right hook, it's going to look like it paid off the minus 160 price tag. But as the fight plays out, it could look a lot closer before that happens. You know what I mean? That's where I'm trying to determine where my cutoff is. What is my line in the sand for how much I'm willing to risk on Wellmaker being the prospect that I think he could be. So minus 160 is where we're getting close to me saying, no, thanks, I'll pass.
I think if you like the Wellmaker side, it's pretty not much now or never. It's only going to get worse. I think the public's all over that side. But I don't know. It's hard to be confident. He has 3 round 1 finishes within 2 minutes. How much can you really get out of that and seeing how he is? Is everybody going back to watch the regional tape to see how he performs, or they just see 3 knockouts in a row and he must be the side, right? So I tend to think that there's EV just on the simple side of just market correction or recency bias there, and then the tape backs it up for me. So that's why I like the Haddon side.
Okay. Well, and that's where for Haddon, I know the volume edge is going to be his thing, but I feel like it's a double-edged sword. And this is the part where, again, I will think myself down a rabbit hole if you let me. It works out for some guys, it doesn't for others. Yep. Nasrat Haqparast is like kind of the perfect example. He's a volume guy. He gets in your face. He never lets you off the hook. More often than not, that works for him. He pushes a crazy pace. He backs you up. He ends up winning on the scorecards. What happened last time? He got kicked in the head. Like, if you are a volume guy, you're giving yourself, you're giving your opponents opportunities to counter you. You're giving your opponents opportunities to land shots because you're getting in there trying to throw hands. And with a kid like Wellmaker, with the power from Wellmaker, that could be the wrong side of the double-edged sword. You may not want to give that guy a lot of opportunities to throw at you. So it's a tough fight, man. It's a tough fight.
Let me just add one point here. So Wellmaker KO, I get it, right? He has power in his hands. I'm not ruling it out. But does Wellmaker have an ability to win by submission here? I don't think so. It's probably 5% or less. And then how does Wellmaker win a decision if it isn't through grappling or volume? It has to be multiple big moments where Hadden survives, and he wins on the scorecard from there. Not counting it out, but I think most of his win equity is KO. And then can you make KO 50, 60% to match his money line? I just don't think the numbers match up. But I don't fault you for taking the Wellmaker side. I get it. He looks impressive, but we'll see.
For sure. Going to be a fun one. Can't wait. Can't wait to find out. Next up, you guys, we got Roman Kopylov, and he is taking on Gregory Hobokop Rodrigues. Jeez, I get the H on the Robo, but not the H on the Rodrigues. That's my bad. That's just Bush League. All right, guys. Roman Kopylov, the bigger of the two curly-headed fucks currently in the UFC. Absolutely love this guy. His kicking game is spectacular. I mean, the way he beats up people's legs, the way he just keeps on going to the body, the way he sets up that head kick. Roman Kopylov is super, super fun. Early in his career, he was a little bit Slava Claus-esque, actually, calling back to that one where everyone knew how dangerous he was kickboxing, so people took him down. Hell, when he made his UFC debut, Carl Roberson, if you guys remember that guy, dragged him to the mat and choked him out, made him tired. Like, it just wasn't working for him. He's really worked on that takedown defense and wrestling game. He's gotten very, very impressive with it. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. I felt really, really upset when he lost to Chris Curtis. I thought my boy Chris had that one. I actually lost on Cesar Almeida as well. That was a split decision. That was very close. It was a war between those two guys. I bet both of those dogs in that spot. Of course, he ends up losing to guys like Paulo Costa and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. So I feel like we've kind of seen the ceiling here for Roman Kopylov. I'm a big fan of him. I like what he's doing, but he's a little bit older. And frankly, man, if you lose to Paulo Costa in 2025, like I'm kind of done. You know, Paulo Costa is a guy who I feel like is a fraud level contender. He's hyped up beyond belief. I know the secret juice. I know the frame, the build, the abs. It's all great. But he's not beating anybody who's a true contender. He's not challenging for a title ever again. So when you lose to Paulo Costa, I know about where you're at level wise. Gregory Rodrigues, 17-6, 33 years old. And this man is a marauder. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, or I apologize. No, I got that right. 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Sorry about that. The only loss coming by Jared Cannonier, round 4 TKO. That's one where I called and did not have the balls to actually sprinkle the round 3, 4, and 5 KO props for Gregory Rodrigues to lose because Jared Cannonier's cardio is just off the freaking charts, man. But he got right in his last fight. Big win over Jack the Joker Hermanson. Big performance of the night bonus. And it seems like that's what this guy's always hunting. He just kind of marches his way forward. He's super heavy on the feet. He is massive for the weight class. And he just wants to throw bombs. He just wants to throw hooks. He wants to get in there and knee you in the face. And he likes it when his head gets split open. If you remember that one where he got like the cut, you could see like the veins in his head and he's like cheering at the camera while they're filming it. Dude's insane. Dude's absolutely insane. But the problem for me with Gregory has always been the durability. 4 KO losses. Now, he's improved. I know Cannonier took him into the deep waters to get him out of there, but I will never forget when Bruno Ferreira jabbed him on the chin and knocked him out cold. I know Ferreira's a meme machine. I know he's got big power, but a jab, like he ran face first into a jab and just crumpled. This guy got knocked out by Jordan Williams, the diabetic kid, back in 2020. We've seen him rocked and wobbled multiple times. The Jung Young Park fight. Park was flurrying on this dude. He was in survival mode up against the cage. Landed one shot that shifted the entire momentum of that fight. He managed to come back and win it. So if you pick your spots, if you pick your moments, if you time it right, Gregory can be had on the feet. But you got to survive all that other shit first, man. He's a BJJ black belt. This guy can take you down and tap you out if he wants to. Like, there's so much threat coming from Gregory Rodrigues that you've got to get around to be able to beat this guy. So it's tough for me, man. It's tough for me. As mentioned before, I'm cooling a little bit on Kopylov coming off of that loss to Paulo Costa. Is this really a bounce back spot? I mean, I feel like Gregory is turned into like a hype fighter, right? We're just going to get a bunch of violent unders in his fight. So I think violence is more the way that I would look in this spot because he's probably just going to go out there and bang it out. And that's what these guys are going to do. I'm actually really struggling on this one, you guys. I'm going to lean ever so slightly to Gregory Rodrigues, but the rule is never to lay chalk on Gregory Rodrigues. So the fact that he's a favorite, he's like minus 160 in this spot, I will pass on this fight from a money line side perspective because I'm just not laying chalk on this guy. I want him as a dog, or I want him in like a good matchup where I'm pretty confident and it's not too expensive. I am not confident. I'm not sure this is a good matchup. And it's this is a tough one, Art. As you can tell, I'm kind of floundering a little bit on this one. I do not have a good feel for this fight or Gregory in general. So I would love some guidance here from you, man. What do you see in this fight? What do you like?
You know what? I'm on the kind of the same boat here, right? And it's comes down to sometimes fight IQ and whatnot. Kopylov has all the tools in the world, and sometimes doesn't use them. Gregory Rodrigues is a great grappler. His base is grappling, and he just falls in love with the striking. So you know how many times I've lost on Gregory Rodrigues by submission because he just never pulls it out, right? So. I don't know really what to make of this fight, right? I think you think about Gregory Rodrigues. He's all power. He throws fight ending strikes at all the time. Yeah, again, he has a grappling base but doesn't grapple. He dropped Cannonier twice. He dropped Hermanson, so he has he has pretty good hands. I think he can be hittable, but he can take punches well until he doesn't. Right? He's winning until he doesn't, sort of thing. And I find that he bleeds almost instantly. He has
Mm-hmm.
all that scar tissue on his face, and because of the judges now, they see like the ounce of blood, and they start swinging the momentum, saying like, "Oh, he caused damage and stuff." It is a scoring criteria for the judges. When they see blood, they automatically, think that there must be damage. And like Hermanson was landing jabs and cutting him. He had multiple cuts on his face, so that's one of the things that kind of worries about me. But Gregory
He needs
Rodriguez,
to call up Wanderlei Silva. Didn't Silva back in the day? He had that surgery to like remove the scar
oh
tissue
yeah,
in
yeah,
his face or
burn
whatever.
his face or something, just all scar tissue. Yeah. But yeah, he extends his combos well. He covers distance well, so you think he's out of range, and then he'll hit you with like a jumping hook or something like that, right? And he can slow down, but in a 3-round fight in a big cage against Kopylov that probably doesn't grapple, I think it's probably okay. I don't think that cardio is really an issue, right? And you bring up the Kopylov last fight there against Paulo Costa. I was on Kopylov as well. I don't really know what it was. I kind of think it was a respecting of the power, and Kopylov was kind of tempted into to enter the pocket and was scared of the power coming back. And if he did that against Costa, I think he's going to do that here against Gregory Rodrigues, because Gregory Rodrigues throws just as hard, if not harder. And Kopylov didn't go for any grappling in that fight. I doubt he would go for grappling here against Gregory Rodrigues. So it's going to be a stand-up fight, right? And it's going to be the power and the long strikes of Gregory Rodrigues. He's going to be on the front foot. He's always on the front foot. But Kopylov, he's a master of sport, 3-time. He has the kickboxing. He can switch from southpaw to orthodox. He loves that liver kick or the body work. Right, so I could see being accumulation of damage into the outside. Kopylov has to sort of stick and move and dig those feet at range, because again he's going to be a little bit tentative entering the pocket with fear of the power. So at range he can throw his kicks, but Gregory Rodrigues is again just throws power. But I think Kopylov has the experience dealing with big hitters. He's fought so many times in kickboxing and striking matches that he does a good job of moving back as his opponent moves forward. He does a good job of keeping up the high guard. So he hasn't really been finished, by knockout. Yeah, he's been choked out a couple of times. He's lost by decision, but he's never been knocked out, which is again how Gregory Rodrigues normally wins his type of fights there, right? So I could see, if this extending Kopylov, finding his groove state, winning a decision sort of thing. It's just the volume from Kopylov that kind of has me worried. I don't think
Mhm.
he's going to finish him. He could, but Gregory Rodrigues just throws so much power there. So I could see, going to decision, but a couple of knockdowns in there, really sweaty sort of thing. So I don't really have a confident side yet. I think Kopylov is live. He has the tools to win it. And like you said, it's almost never Gregory Rodrigues at big juice. It's so hard to back him up there. So I don't know. If for an official pick, yeah, okay, I'll take Rodrigues just because he has more ways to win. But betting wise, I might take a sprinkle here or just pass altogether.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are feeling pretty much the same way on this one. I've got a couple of questions though. First and foremost, obviously the biggest weapon with Kopylov is those kicks. Can he head kick Gregory Rodrigues? Do you think he can get his leg all the way up
All
there?
that high? Yeah, it's pretty tall there. Yeah. I thought about it. It's possible. He has a couple of head kick knockouts and whatnot, so it wouldn't surprise me. I also thought about, he kicks to the body because it's southpaw versus orthodox here. If Kopylov does go to the liver kick, it's possible that Gregory Rodrigues catches those body kicks and then
Mm.
uses them to take down. So I'm kind of worried there that Gregory Rodrigues gets on top because of a caught kick or something. And then, when it's on top, it's completely different. But I don't think he proactively looks to grapple, but he could.
I mean, if Gregory was ever to pull his head out of his ass, Gregory by sub, this would be the week. Like, right, this
Yeah.
would be the spot to play the Gregory by sub prop. I know people burn their money on Gregory by sub week after week after week. This might be the one where we actually have a shot at it. Now, question number 2. We kind of like tiptoed around it a little bit. Does Gregory hit harder than Paulo Costa? Because I would say he does. I think Paulo's got like beach muscles. I think he's got show
Yeah.
muscles,
Yeah.
right? We've
All
seen
show, no
him
gloat.
We've seen him rip as hard as he possibly can, and he goes 25 minutes every single damn time. I think Hopo Cop's got more power than Paulo does.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it is just all show. It's just Instagram muscle sort of thing. Gregory Rodrigues, he puts everything behind it, right? So he has 3 knockdowns in the last 2 fights. He knocked down Julian Marquez, but don't forget Kopylov has a bunch of knockdowns as well, right?
He
I think
does.
he broke the record, not a record, but he has 5 knockdowns, 6 knockdowns in the last 6 or 7 fights. So could come from either side there, right?
Yeah, no, very true. And I can't knock Paulo Costa whatsoever for the muscles, you guys. If I had abs like that, I would be taking my weekly meta payments because my posts would, going off the handle, showing off the abs every single day. I'd be thirst trapping left and right. You couldn't stop me. All right, next up, we've got Bo Nickal taking on Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter himself. Now, the problem with that is he a NCAA wrestling champion hunter, right? Does the black belt hunter roll over to wrestling credentials or not? That's the big question here. Bo Nickal coming off of his fraud check, and I will call it that because as somebody who burned piles of money trying to continue the run on Reinier de Ritter in his last fight, that loss has aged pretty poorly. Now, RDR, a guy who everyone knows a little bit weird, right? Like, we've made a lot of money betting on RDR on this show. The Robert Whitaker split decision, I said we got lucky on that one, you guys. But losing to Brendan Allen, quitting on the stool the way he did, like, that's just the back-to-back. Those fights are a pretty rough looking. What did he do before that? Pasted Bo Nickal. Showed there's levels to this shit with body shots and the knees up the middle and just being the larger man. Frankly, I think Bo's too small. I'm not going to lie. I want to watch him size up on Friday after the weigh-ins. I want to see what he looks like sized up with Rodolfo Vieira, because Rodolfo, that man is anabolic as it gets. He is solid muscle. This was the guy that, when they talk about steroids in jiu-jitsu, like they were talking specifically about Rodolfo Vieira, and now he's in MMA. I wonder how big he looks compared to Bo Nickal on Friday. But Bo is just 29 years old. He's training at a really good gym at American Top Team. We expect to see big things from him. When you get to the level that he was at wrestling-wise, you just kind of translate that skill to the next thing that you do, right? He will develop. Given time, he will improve. He knows how to work. He's got the ethic. He's got the raw physical skills. He will get there. But I wonder if he's in the wrong weight class. I really do. Rodolfo, there's not a whole lot to say, man. He's 36 years old at this point, and he's kind of zigzagging, right? Win a couple, lose one here and there. Like my boy Chris Curtis, it made it hard for him to get taken down, and then he just kind of beat him up on the feet. You throw him to Cody Brundage, which is a massive step down in competition. After that, he chokes him out almost instantaneously. He's got a win over Tresean Gore, but he lost to Andre Petrowski. It's like, what is this man? What is he? Like, he's not a very good striker. His jab is okay. He's developed a pretty good jab at this point. He's tough. Like, that I remember his post-fight speech when he was, or not speech, the interview when they were talking about the Chris Curtis fight. He said he wanted to quit. He was like, everything in me wanted me to stop that fight. I hurt so bad. He hit so hard. I just kept telling myself, you can't quit. You can't quit. I was holding a Curtis knockout ticket that night, so I was very disappointed that he gutted his way through that one. But that just shows you the toughness of a guy like Rodolfo Vieira. The only finished loss he has was when he got completely gassed out. How? Via chain grappling against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He got submitted in that fight, which was absolutely insane. Nobody thought Vieira was going to be submitted by anybody. But what do tired people do, ladies and gentlemen? Tired people tap. And he got exhausted, and he got his back taken, and he got choked out. Or I guess he gave up top position. Sorry about that. Mistake on my part. I think Bo Nickal can somewhat do something of the same here. If he's got the submission defense to close the distance, if he can get on top of Rodolfo, if he can make him chain grapple and work his way back up to the feet and put him on his back, I think there's a chance he could maybe TKO Vieira late in this fight. If he goes to work ground and pound, round 3, it'd be a long shot sprinkle. But realistically, more often, I expect Bo Nickal consolidates the control. He doesn't want to chain grapple. He doesn't want to give him a shot to give up. He doesn't want to let him get back to his feet. I think Bo tries to sit on his chest and grind out a decision victory in this spot. Don't get fancy. Don't be flashy. Get the win. Get back in the dub. And that's kind of how I see this fight going. So Bo Nickal by decision kind of is the way that I would look at this one. But it's so hard to trust him after the last couple of fights and what we've seen recently.
Yeah, I get it, right? And Bo Nickal came in as this like huge prospect. He was saying like, I'm going to be minus 500 until I'm champion or something, like that, and then ends up losing. And you make a good point. Maybe he's undersized and whatnot. And so this fight for me, it comes down to the game plan of Bo Nickal, right? And he's fought back to back, and this will be back to back to back grapplers, right? And against Paul Craig. Paul Craig is a grappling guy. He has zero striking. So, people shit on Bo for like taking the easy way out. But if I'm fighting Paul Craig, I'm keeping the fight on the feet. I know Paul Craig has almost zero striking. So it's a little bit of a way to like play it safe. And, Bo Nickal cruises to a decision, doesn't even look for his takedown because why give Paul Craig the fight that he wants?
As gamblers, we should be grateful for the high fight IQ, right?
Yeah. If he fights optimally, right? And against Reinier de Ridder, right? And you talked about it, right? He went for the takedown early. He got top control. And then Reinier de Ridder creates a scrambler. I think looks for like an armbar or something. And then Bo Nickal jumps guillotine and he gives up the position. Like you thought you were going to jump guillotine against RDR, like fresh in the
full
fight.
brundage.
Yeah, he fully, and then he gave RDR like 2 minutes of top time because RDR is just so big and huge on top, right? So RDR wasn't able to pass guard or do much damage, but he's just big on top, and it contributed to like Bo slowing down. And then into the second round, RDR was continuing to clinch and work the knees in the clinch, which sort of zapped some of the energy from Bo. And if Bo can't get the takedown, his striking isn't really good. Like his claim to fame is his wrestling, right? And his striking, he sort of spams overhand lefts, right? He's just spamming overhand. Like he's not really the best striker. He doesn't mix in a lot of kicks. So he's kind of lost when it comes to a pure striking match. It's easy to outstrike Paul Craig. It's even easy to have moments against Reinier de Ridder striking. But in a pure stand-up fight, I don't think he's all that good. So it comes down to Rodolfo Vieira. Vieira was like one of those like 18-time BJJ champions and stuff. So if I'm fighting optimally, if I'm fighting Rodolfo Vieira, there's no way I'm going down to the ground with him. Now, I'm confident Bo thinks that his grappling is pretty good. He can get him down and play it safe. I think he has a grappling match against Gordon Ryan that went to decision, things like that. So Bo is obviously pretty confident in his grappling. Even in the corner between RDR, the game plan in the second round was to get RDR down and work some ground and pound there. So I don't think that it's not possible that he goes for a takedown, but I also think it's possible that this fight just stays on the feet the whole time, right? And Vieira wants to get the fight down to the ground, but sometimes just can't. He talked about the Chris Curtis going 0 for 20 in takedowns against Chris Curtis. He went 1 for 11 on takedowns against Petrosky. That's why he ended up losing that fight. Tresean Gore, he went 1 for 14 in takedowns. So against a decorated college wrestler in Bo Nickal, I doubt Vieira gets the takedowns when he looks for the takedowns there if he can't get Tresean Gore down, right? So I could see it being 15 minutes of stand-up. And, I don't think Vieira's striking's horrible. I think he has the volume. I think he could land. I think Bo could land as well, but I think it might play out on the feet between two grapplers. Just 15 minutes of striking here, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. Kind of would surprise me if Vieira found the sub or if Bo found the sub and submitted him if Vieira wasn't completely gassed. I know in the chat they're saying that he wants to sub him, but that's just fighter talk and stuff, right? So I kind of lean with you with Bo decision. I think that if he does grapple, he'll play it safe. He'll just keep top time. And then on the feet, maybe he lands some subs, but he's not a big volume guy. And he's not going to really separate on the feet either if in a pure stand-up fight. So I lean Bo. I think he wins. I think, the first loss on your record drives you differently and you come back more motivated and, I don't want to lose again. So maybe he didn't take it seriously the first time and now he's training. I don't know, but sometimes they they look completely different after a loss. I like Bo Nickal here in this matchup.
Okay. Yeah, you and me are feeling about the same way on that one. I want to see how they size up. Like I said, we'll figure it out from there. Minus 225, Bo Nickal currently your favorite. The total set at 2.5. It looks like it's about minus 125, minus 130 to the over 2.5. So interesting that it's kind of at a pick'em-ish type of line. That gives at least a little bit of intrigue for somebody getting caught in something. They're both dangerous enough. I can kind of see it. But yeah, man, I lean over. I lean Bo Nickal by decision myself.
Yeah.
Next,
what's the Bo decision then? Just based on being super favored and going over, probably just plus 150, 160,
plus
170.
120. I'll bet you they cut it short,
that's horrible. Anyways,
Odds aren't out yet. Odds aren't. I'm
oh,
speculating, but I would
oh,
guess they don't give you a break on it. They'll probably do plus 120 or something.
yeah.
All right. Next fight up, you guys. Gerald Meerschaert takes on Kyle Daukaus. And geez, Art, I owe Kyle an apology. I owe Kyle Daukaus an apology. I've talked about this guy being chinny. I've talked about this guy, never making it back to the UFC. He was running a Twitter campaign trying to get the UFC's attention and get him back and stuff like that. And he's looked pretty decent on the regional scene since getting cut by the UFC. He got knocked out, if you guys recall, by my boy Eric Anders back in 2022. I actually think we cashed a KO ticket and called that one that night as well. It's a long time ago, so pardon me if I remember that incorrectly. But the biggest thing I've always said about the Daukaus brothers is they are not durable. They're just chinny. Like, these guys cannot take a punch. And Kyle's skill set is phenomenal. He's a BJJ black belt. He can scramble really well. He can wrestle. And since he's gone back to the regional scene, it looks like his striking has improved leaps and bounds. He's much, much better on the feet. And we've seen that. Now he's been fighting a lower level of competition. So we will see if that holds up. But he comes back against Michel Pereira. And frankly, I was absolutely stunned, man. We need to investigate Michel Pereira, okay? Because we all knew he was going to lose to Fluffy Hernandez, but the next two fights, losing to Abus and Kyle Daukaus, like, I think something was up with that man. I don't know if his knee was blown out and he was just taking, a fight so that he got his health insurance or something like that, but I don't know if he called grandma in Brazil and had her put her life savings against him so he would throw that fight. Something's going on weird with that guy his last couple of fights. But so I am really like tiptoeing here with Kyle Daukaus. I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what I want to say, because the fact is, you can never repair your chin, right? You can improve defensively. You can make better choices. You can toughen up. If you're young and you get clipped, like, it happens sometimes, so you're not necessarily chinny, but like, Kyle Daukaus is chinny, okay? Like, that's gonna come back, you guys. Eventually, we're gonna find ourselves in a matchup where I'm gonna just ship it on a KO prop to fade Kyle Daukaus, because it's gonna happen. But until then, getting his feet wet back in the UFC, we've got to acknowledge the fact that he is big. We've got to acknowledge the fact that he is a black belt. We've got to acknowledge the fact that he has improved, and the UFC has given him another shot at it. Now, Gerald Meerschaert, 37-20. The guy has over 50 professional fights, 37 years old. He's on a 3-fight losing skid, 2 of those by way of finish, and he just got knocked out by Michal Oleksiejczuk at UFC 319. Guys, that was like 3 months ago. I always talk about wanting fighters to take 6 to 9 months off after a bad KO. Gerald is a guy who's always had questionable durability. He goes full Darren Elkins mode in every single fight, where he gets hurt for the first 10 minutes of the fight and then pulls a win out of his ass in the third round once you decide to slow down and get tired from punching him in the face. That's when he turns the tables on you. That's the whole GM3 experience. I don't think you can keep doing that after 35 years old. He's 37 now. And a quick turnaround after a bad knockout, I just don't see this going well. It is never, ever Kyle Daukaus at minus 300, at minus 400. Like, he's just not that guy. And one win into the UFC, for him to command a minus 400 price tag is kind of insane to me. But I also think we are very near the end of Gerald Meerschaert's run. If this fight was 3 years ago, this is a pick'em line, and Gerald Meerschaert wins this fight inside the distance, right? Like, I just think Gerald might be completely toast at this point, and that's why I have to pick Kyle Daukaus.
I saw the line and I saw the fight, and I was just like, oh, it threw up in my mouth a little bit. Kyle Daukaus minus 350. It can never be right. And I think, obviously we talk about like recency bias and, KOing Michel Pereira. Anybody can get caught on any day, and I think that's what happened. I think the fight extends. It's going to be Pereira all day, but he got caught and he won there, right? So we're getting a little bit of a better line, but GM3 is also one of those guys that I can never back or bet on. He sort of relies on, his opponent slowing down, sort of gassing and then getting the grappling going, right? That's what happened in the Shabazian fight, where Shabazian was just destroying him on the feet. Barbarina too, he found a rear naked choke in round number 2. So maybe GM3 is better live bet spot if you see Daukaus starting to slow down, but Daukaus isn't really like, he's well-rounded, but he's not great at anything. He's kind of fragile. So, maybe this is the spot where like nobody's expecting a GM3 KO because he doesn't KO anybody. But maybe this is the spot. So I don't know. I feel like I'm sort of forcing a bet here. I don't like to bet GM3 almost ever, and then I can't lay juice on Kyle Daukaus, so I have to be a little bit creative with the props here. I could see it playing out on the feet where Daukaus wants to keep the fight standing again. It's one of those fighting optimally, and if GM3 wants to go down to the ground and that's his bread and butter, then I want to keep the fight standing and play to my strengths, sort of thing. And I do believe that Kyle Daukaus is probably the better striker. He could probably keep the fight on the ground as long as he doesn't gas. It's probably his to win. Wouldn't surprise me if it went to decision. GM3 just doesn't. He's not a decision kind of guy. He sort of sells out. He gives up. Can't go the time there, right? Majority of his wins, 92% of his UFC wins are coming from submission, and I just don't know if he's submitting Daukaus here. If he can get the fight down to the ground, so it's just a pass for me overall. Daukaus has never been submitted in his career. He went down to the regionals, came back up and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a good read on this. I think Daukaus could find the KO. GM3 could find the KO. I think it could go over just because of extended grappling, but just GM3 doesn't really condone two decisions there. So I lean Daukaus, maybe KO, maybe decision.
Okay. I don't mind it. And frankly, honestly, man, I wouldn't be shocked if the Darce Knight went out there and submitted Gerald Meerschaert. I know that's tough to do, and Gerald's been had much easier by knockout, but let's not forget that the grappling really is what Daukaus got his career started with, right? He was a black belt before anything else. His nickname is the Darce Knight. That's his favorite submission. And when you get an old beaten up dude like Gerald Meerschaert, who gets a little tired late in the fight, like that will to drive through that and keep pushing just kind of isn't there. We saw that in his Reiner de Ritter fight, where eventually he just kind of succumbed to the bigger physical man who was able to continue getting on top of him, and he kept losing those scrambles. I think we kind of see the same thing here. I would be looking like late rounds Daukaus sub props. I'm curious what those numbers will drop at. Usually I lean knockout over Gerald Meerschaert, but just because of who he's fighting, I kind of think sub is probably the way that I'd look. But just me asking unders here. I would lean, I mean, it depends. What are we looking at here? Let me pull up this total here real quick. It is 1.5, and I would lean over. Gerald Meerschaert's not usually a guy that goes out there in one punch, and I know we just saw that from Kyle, but I don't want to get too overhyped about what Kyle did in his last fight. Like I said, I feel like something fishy was going on there. I would lean over 1.5, but I would also lean fight doesn't go the distance. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with around 2-3 type of spot personally.
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
Yeah.
I think, both guys, you kind of watch, live bet and just watch the cardio a little bit. Maybe the grappling, tires one of the sides out. And GSP, GM3 sort of thrives on those late finishes as well. So maybe just take around 2 sub. It's not a winner, around 3 sub, and it could go either way.
For sure. And my guy Dan asking, is Daukaus about to have a second revival stint like Joseph Morales? I kind of think so, maybe a little bit. It's very similar. It's the same situation, right? My guy Matt Schnell, unfortunately, just shot to bits. I wish I had just played Joseph Morales inside the distance instead of parlaying him, because that was awful, man. We talked about that last week, how on Instagram he's training out of his garage and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, we knew he was just there for a paycheck last week. So I don't know that Gerald Meerschaert is quite at that level of done yet. We'll see. But I do think it's very similar. And Isaac Bulgarian in the house once again. Art, he tuned in on Friday, and he talked to us about who's going to be tuning in for round 1, who's going to be checked out. Isaac gives us the insight here on these fights, so happy to see it. Salter, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. Aaron says Daukaus by KO. Mark my words. Okay, that's some pretty. When someone says "mark my words," a mental note. All right, okay, we'll take a look. Maybe we go inside the distance instead.
GM3 lowers, goes for a leg lock or something, and just gets hammer fisted till he taps. I could see it.
Yeah, that can happen. Happens a lot. All right. Next up, we got Angie Overkill Hill with Fatima Kline, the Archangel. Still just pound for pound, the sickest fighter name there's ever been, the Archangel. I absolutely love that. You guys know I have been high on Fatima Kline. Saw her coming a mile away. The word is out. Everybody knows she is a A1 prospect, man. 25 years old and 2-0 so far in the UFC. She got her short notice opportunity against Jazz in her UFC debut. And frankly, you guys, that's just never going to go well for anybody. But what's crazy about it, she had moments in that fight. Like, she had success reversing jazz. She was doing all the right stuff, grappling from bottom. And like, it was a really impressive loss, if that's an easy way, if that's an okay thing to say. We got her inside the distance to plus 225 in her bounce back fight. One of the most beautiful spots we've ever been in. That was one of the only cashes I've had that was worth talking about in 2025 when she took out Victoria Dudakova. I just love everything about this girl. She is mean. She's vicious. She can wrestle. She's got great submissions. She will beat you to a pulp on the mat. Like, you've got to watch out, like KO or sub, because she can ground and pound you to hell. And then if you decide to turn the wrong way, she'll take your neck. She can submit you or knock out. Either way she feels like doing it, frankly. And she always cooks people. So it's going to be those round 2, round 3 props. I love Fatima Kline. I'm very excited about her. And word on the street that is that apparently Erin Blanchfield said that she is finally able to go full time. Like, she just quit her job. So this is going to be her first fight camp where she is a full-time MMA fighter, which just, I expect massive things from her already. I expect huge improvements, being able to not, drive Uber on the weekends to be able to make ends meet. So if she's out there doing nothing but train 24/7, that's a big deal to me. Now, Angie Hill, one of my favorite old dogs, you guys, but she is 40 years old, 3-3 in her last 6 fights. And the thing I always say about Angie is she fights to the level of her competition, man. I feel like if you put Angela Hill against any champion in this division, no matter when they had the belt, like, that'll be her best night. She will fight her ass off. She will give the champion a go on her. Like, she just does that. Like, she will fight up to her level of competition. Now, she'll lose, but she will give them a hell of a fight. I love that she's tough. I love that she never quits. I love that she never says die. At 39 years old, she's submitting people for the first time ever in the UFC because she's still adding wrinkles to her game. Like, there's nothing but love for Angie Hill. This is a bad fight for her. This is a really bad spot for her. This is the spot where the UFC wants the name on the resume, and this young prospect is going to have so much just pissing vinegar is the only term coming to mind here. She's just going to be so much tougher in this spot, I feel like, to handle. She'll be faster. She'll be explosive. I think she'll beat Angela Hill to positions. She's going to hit harder. It's Fatima Kline. Now, can Angie survive and weather the storm to the later rounds and maybe to a decision? That's the question here, because this is a step up in competition for Fatima Kline. And Angie has been known her entire career for being extremely durable, right? She's only been submitted, twice? So she hasn't been finished in years. I actually, her submission losses. That weird Randa Marcos fight way back in 2019 was like the last time she got submitted. So, like, man, I wanna say that it's a Fatima Kline round 3. I wanna say she comes out here and just does the unthinkable, puts a beating on Angie Hill, gets it done late. But more than likely, it's probably a step up in competition where it takes everything she's got to get over the hump, because we see that a lot in MMA, and she probably gets her hand raised by decision.
Angie Hill went 5 rounds with Mackenzie Dern and didn't get submitted there. I know you're high on Kline, and I get it, but I don't think her BJJ is on like a worldly other level, but she's very well rounded. If this fight was maybe like 5 years ago, I'd be very tempted to take Angie Hill here. But she's almost 41 in a couple of months. She's definitely slowing down. She never had power to begin with. So she sort of relied on the volume and the speed almost all of her career, and the speed seems to be going, the volume even seems to be going a little bit. So I find it hard for Angie Hill to actually win here. I think that she, her best path is probably stick and move, take the outside, maybe outpoint her, maybe to a close split decision type win, but that's about it there. I think if Kline does get the grappling going, I think that obviously she's going to win minutes. You talked about how Angie Hill is pretty durable. The last time she got submitted was that Randa Marcos fight, was 20 fights ago. So she's been in there with some killers, some really good grapplers and whatnot, and she's gone to decision with them. In the last fight against Fatima Kline, we had that Fatima Kline goes to decision or Fatima Kline by decision, and it was trending there so well, and until she landed the last minute head kick. But the reason I bring this up is that Melissa Martinez, I think she was like a Taekwondo background, a lot of sticking and moving, taking the outside of the cage, and Kline was not doing the best job of cutting her off or getting her, getting a hold of her. She could definitely get takedowns if she wanted to, but she couldn't get Martinez down. She couldn't get top time on Martinez just because Martinez was moving and sticking around and circling the cage here. So I think if Angie Hill follows that type of game plan, she could probably survive. It's still Kline on the front foot. Optics wise, you give it to Kline. Volume wise, you probably give it to Kline. But that's the way I see Angie Hill winning, is probably on the back foot, voluming, and winning a split decision there, right? But you got to give it to Kline. I think Kline is like 12 years younger, some ridiculous, like you said, and she's taking it full time. She's taking it seriously. She has striking upside. She has all the grappling upside as well as all the finishing upside. So I get the line and I get it. It's just, yeah, Hill looks to be on the decline there. I can't back Hill here, and I don't know if I can take Kline at minus 450, 500. So again, got to get kind of creative with props. Maybe an over based on the price, but I assume it's going to be in the minus 300, 400s as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're seeing this probably pretty equally. And I got to shout out Angie Hill, man. Like you said, she grappled with Mackenzie Dern and didn't get subbed, and she ate everything Amanda Lemos had to offer, and she didn't get knocked out. Like, this chick is tougher than a $2 steak. So, the only reason I would think she would be able to get finished finally is the accumulation of damage and the age. She is 40 now. You know what I mean? Like, eventually we're going to dip off and somebody's going to get her. Is it this weekend? I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, it's got to be Archangel, but we are nearing in on minus 500, and that is a little bit insane. So we'll have to just kind of pump the brakes on that one. That's probably going to be a pick and not really much of a bet, unless I really like the round 3 or really like the decision prop, because they're kind of pricing me out there on that one. All right, guys, real quick, got to shout out the sponsors here. As you know, Spectation Sports has regional MMA. You guys, this week we've got Aries on Friday and then Cage Titans on Saturday. You guys do not want to miss this Cage Titans event. This one is fantastic. Cage Titans 74. There is a bad blood matchup between Joe the Party and Jay Perrin, two guys who have been trading barbs with each other for years. Jay Perrin was the champion, left for the UFC. Joey took his spot, and ever since then, they've been kind of, like dogs barking at each other through a fence. Well, now they're both back in Cage Titans, and the stakes are high for this one. It's going to be fantastic. And there's 2 other titles on the line, as well as the OG belt, which is basically their version of like the BMF belt. So it's a couple of guys who are maybe a little bit older, but fan favorites who are super exciting, and guys who have a history within Cage Titans. It's going to be a really fun event. Make sure you get signed up here. I will get you 20% off when you use promo code DIEHARD when you sign up for Spectation Sports. Link in the description below. And if you're bored with no fights to watch on Friday, hey, Aries has got you covered there as well. This is going to be a good week, so get signed up. Next up, of course, we need to shout out CloudBet. CloudBet.com, you guys. If you're going to be watching PFL, you don't have to worry about where you're going to find it, because the Fight Center will live stream PFL right here on the site. Of course, they've got fantastic numbers on props. I love this little widget here that shows you the wins, the losses, the finishing of all the fighters. So you got a little bit of information built into it as well, up to $2,500 when you deposit, when you sign up using promo code DIEHARDMMA. Use the link in the description below. And if you're going to gamble, you might as well do it on CloudBet. All right, guys, we are back. It's UFC 322, and I am joined by Mr. Electrocute Artsy. Make sure you guys are checking him out, taking a look at his content. He's a great follow, especially on social media like Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Spectacular guest with lots of knowledge and a spectacular betting record in the year of 2025. So make sure you're listening to everything he says. Hit that like button, subscribe, share the show. Let's go. Next up, you've got Hunter Bangser Susurkaev coming in here, taking on Eric Makhachev. And okay, all right, so I've got a little bit of a bone to pick on this one. People keep trying to convince me that Eric Makhachev is like a good fighter. I'm not sure why. He's 10-3-1. He's 35 years old. He's training out of the lab. He seems like one of these guys that's like a good gym room guy, The Minnesota Vikings keep Adam Thielen around, not because he's a spectacular wide receiver anymore, but because he's a locker room guy. He's a piece of our history. People love him, That's why we re-signed him to the team, that kind of thing. That's what Eric Makhachev feels like to me. There's a bunch of guys from the lab that are fighting, and they're all going, oh, yeah, that's my boy. That's Eric. That's Eric Makhachev. Let's go. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not going with Eric McConaughey. People were trying to make an argument for him against Nursultan Frontzaboev, and if you guys know me, you know I named him Frontzaboev for a reason. I'm trying to fade the guy every chance I get. No. We knew he was knocking this man out. McConaughey has no chin. He's yet another one of these fighters that has no chin, and my disappointment in Cody Brundage is beyond measurable because I actually let Cody Brundage take my money that night. Art, I really trusted Cody Brundage in the one fight, the one spot where I thought, maybe he won't get bailed out by the DQ in this spot. This is actually a guy whose ass he can kick. And he ended up having a pitter-pattery 15-minute decision type of contest. Bite down on the mouthpiece and swing the right hand. Eric McConaughey goes to sleep. That's how that fight should have gone. Cody let that one sail down the river, and I'll never forgive him for it. Eric seems like a guy who's decently well-rounded, just not at the UFC level. And the durability definitely isn't at the UFC level. Now, Bankster Susurkaev, 10-0, undefeated, 24 years old. This was the kid that Dana White got so hyped for on Contender Series that he turned him around, and 1 week later, this guy was making his debut, less than a week, was making his debut on UFC 319. They were like, that's Khamzat's boy. Get him on the pay-per-view. Like, this was that stunt where everyone was hyped up. He set the record for the quickest turnaround. He gets out there, he gets a big finish, but it wasn't easy going, man. He fought Eric Nolan at UFC 319, and he looked tired. He was getting busted up. He was backing away. It's like it was a real bad look for him for a second there, and then he was able to get a takedown, get on top of Eric, take his back. I like his grappling. He's very Khamzat-esque with the way he takes the back, with the way he squeezes. He's all horsepower. The kid's fun, right? But I worry a little bit about him being a little overhyped. I'm not sure he is the second coming of Khamzat Chimaev. And I know it was weird circumstances, big stage on the pay-per-view, quick turnaround after your last fight. You can't expect him to perform optimally in those conditions. So we'll see. I'm going to put a pin in it. I'm not sure what to think of him here at this point. I've said that I really want to get on the other side of him. I want to fade him given the opportunity. Art, this ain't it. This is not that opportunity. He's going to ice Eric McConaughey in this fight, you guys. I think this kid is going to come out and he's going to show exactly why the UFC likes him so much. I don't think McConaughey is going to have absolutely anything for him. I fully expect him to knock this dude out. Probably ground and pound, probably round one. What do you think, Art? You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm muted. All right, sorry about that.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think McConaughey is complete trash, but I don't think he's all that great. I do think that he has some paths, and he seems to be doing a lot more grappling on the side and whatnot. So it could get there, but the thing that worries me is that, okay, so McConaughey has 5 rounds now in the UFC. He has a total of 31 strikes landed in those 5 rounds, right? So he's just not a big volume guy. I know Cody Brundage was a little bit back and forth with the striking. Bolev was into the second round where he only landed 5 significant strikes. And Susurkaev, just an absolute killer on the feet. Like, you can see in his stance that he's super confident in his hands, super confident in his head movement. He keeps those hands very low, but he does have some good volume, good power. He's working the body. He has a teep finish because he throws that front teep like a dagger. I think he has a couple of like knee finishes as well. So he's well rounded and terms. Yeah, he has a couple of knee finishes. He throws the knees. He has a bunch of jumping knees. He'll knee the body like Prates can do, or he'll jump knee and land the kick there. So he just has a whole different bunch of weapons there. I don't know if Susurkaev going to proactively look to grapple. What I find with him is that he's content to strike and he wants to strike at range. And then because guys don't really like the power coming back, they actually try to grapple on him. And you can see him like he's composed. I think it's because he changed with Chimaev, but he sees it all the time. But you can see guys going for his legs. He's going for a trip, and then he will use that opportunity to reverse it and land into mount. He's done that a couple of times where the opponent engages in the grappling because they don't like the striking. He gets the takedown, he gets the reverse, and he gets on top and stuff, right? And if he can get the back, he'll get the choke, find the choke. But I find he got to a position there with Eric Nolan where Nolan was on the ground. He had to go back into full guard and start that transition altogether. He just thought, you know what, it's better if I just stand up, sort of thing. So I think that Susurkaev probably KOs him on the feet. if McConnell has any path here, it might be through grappling, but I just don't know how successful he can be. I agree that Susurkaev is pretty hyped here, and there's not much to get off of it, but he seems to be the real deal from what I can tell. I'm not looking to step in front of that train either. So probably a pass at this price. I'm not willing. I don't really lay the juice on -800, but I don't think I can get to a mechanical side. I might look at a total and maybe play like a fight starts round 2 as somewhat a contrarian, hoping that mechanical can survive a little bit, but it depends on the price. I think it's Susurkaev all day here, though.
Okay. You and me are in the same boat on that one, man. I also think that it is Susurkaev, and I also agree that it's probably going to be that knockout. I think this is that classic spot where the UFC really is kind of like, okay, so we like this kid. We want him to get a big win. This guy doesn't have great durability, not a great chin. Let's match him up together. I think that makes a ton of sense to me. Real quick, shout out my guy. Salt Dirt in the chat says we need to cash that turkey hair transplant parlay. I believe, and I'm telling you, Salt, I've already called my shot. It's happening. It's happening this week. We're cashing the turkey hair transplant parlay
This is it.
this week. And so because of that, I need you guys to help me out because I'm going to have a brand new head of hair in just about a month or so. So I need you guys to help me pick my hairstyle. You guys need to let me know which hairstyle I should be using. So let me get this up here real quick here. I need everybody in the chat to go ahead and vote for me.
Business in the front, party in the back.
There we go.
What?
Those are your options. 1,
Those
2,
are
3,
my
and 4.
options?
1, 2, 3, or 4. Everybody get in the chat. Let me know
4
what the
dreads?
haircut's gonna be. It's like the mini dreads.
Oh,
yeah. I think that one's more expensive though. I don't have the genetics for 4, so I'll bet you we might have to add. We might have to add like an extra leg to the parlay to be able to get to that one because I think they're gonna have a hard time installing those.
You need a guy with dreads to come with you.
So yeah, that's somebody said that I should take a power move, do the turkey hair transplant parlay, and then just shave it off. Go bald again.
I do it because I can.
Exactly, right? Now I have the option. I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's keep it rolling. Next, I changed the background. Whoops, I changed the background. I hit the wrong button. My bad. Erin Blanchfield takes on Tracy Cortez. Women's MMA at its finest. Erin Blanchfield, cold-blooded, is kind of the next big thing. Everyone's got her pinned as the next champion, right? She's 13-2. They gave her shot against Manon Fiorot. She went out there and she's just a little undersized, a little underskilled, still a little too young, but she gave a good account of herself. 26 years old, and then she turns around and beats Rose Namajunas right after that. So it's like you got the champion on your resume. They're giving you, big names and big situations. It's just a matter of time. Erin Blanchfield is Thanos, man. She is inevitable the way she's coming for UFC gold at some point. She's incredible with her wrestling. Her boxing is improving. The thing for me is she really doesn't have power. Now, not that women's MMA fighters need power. Most of them don't have power, but she can't really get the respect that she needs with her hands. So she's got to do it with her pace and her grappling and her wrestling, and her jiu-jitsu is fantastic. She's very opportunistic with her chokes. You remember she choked out Andrade. She choked out JJ with that standing guillotine that was pretty brutal. She got Molly McCann with the Kimura, which anytime you can horsepower your way to a Kimura, I'm super interested and I'm very impressed. So I like Erin Blanchfield's overall grappling game, but man, it feels like with these slicker, bigger fighters, she just feels a little undersized. She just feels like she's a little too small to me. And I don't know if she's young and she'll fill out. I don't know if she can pack some muscle on in the gym and this thing will go away, in 2 years and she'll just be mauling people. But I worry that she's a little too small for this weight class. That's really my only knock on her. 9 out of 10, one note. That's all I've got for her. Tracy Cortez, 12-2, 31 years old. She's training out of Fight Ready MMA, and you guys know Fight Ready is my gym, and you guys know I'm a big fan of Santino. We know we're boys with Brandon Olivas. This is the retirement fight for Santino. This is his last training camp.
Wow.
He's hanging up the gloves, man. He's not going to be a coach anymore. Tracy Cortez is apparently the last student that he's going to be working with and cornering. So kind of a big deal for him. Congratulations to him, obviously, for his awesome career and being able to hang it up and retire and do what he wants to do at this point. But I think this will be a big fight for Tracy too. And this is a rematch between these two ladies. They fought back in Invicta way back in the day. A very, very close competitive fight, one that Tracy Cortez got her hand raised for. And frankly, man, I hate to be that guy. But I feel like this is an Erin Blanchfield revenge spot. Is like they kind of don't have much else to do with her at this point, right? Like she lost to Fiorot. Where do you go from there? You can't give her the title shot. She beat Rose Namajunas. So, man, what's next, right? You can't really go up any higher. Well, Tracy Cortez is notable. She's got a name. She, works the socials very well, and she's got a loss to her. So, like, it feels like a bridge fight to me. It feels like a fight where they're just trying to keep Erin Blanchfield busy. This is Tracy Cortez Super Bowl. This is her shot. This is her fight to prove that she's a title challenger, championship caliber. She's got to win this one. Everything hinges on Tracy Cortez for her this weekend. Whereas for Erin, this is like, you need a little bit more seasoning here. We'll give you 6 to 9 months. Take this fight instead. It's tough, man. So common opponent, Rose Namajunas. I know MMA math doesn't work, but Erin Blanchfield beat her. Tracy Cortez did not. Tracy's got decent boxing. She also is a very good grappler. She's pretty strong herself. She's very physical. She's going to be a little bit larger than Erin Blanchfield, and I think more often than not in women's MMA, that makes a difference. But I kind of feel like we're done with Tracy. I mean, maybe I'm a fool for saying that. Maybe I'm a little foolish for just kind of writing her off here. Erin Blanchfield is a minus 250, minus 260 favorite. You can get plus 210 coming back on Tracy Cortez. And that line does feel wide to me. I'll fully confess that I feel like this is headed for a split decision. So I think that line feels very, very wide in a 15-minute fight where both these women are super tough. Neither of them can knock each other out. And both of them have excellent submission defense. So I don't see this fight finishing. We're going 15 minutes. So for plus 210, like it's got to be dog or pass, but I don't want to bet Tracy Cortez, man. Like I think Erin's going to win this fight 29-28.
I actually agree with everything there. I am a little bit higher on Tracy Cortez, but you called it out to say that the line's a little bit wide. And for me, it's Tracy Cortez has relied sort of on the grappling, the offensive grappling to win fights, right? I think she has like 40 takedown attempts over the last 8 fights here. I just don't know against Erin Blanchfield if that's the path that you really want to take, is try to get her down to the ground and stuff, right? So, she's gotten a lot of control in the 2 fights where she didn't really get control. She lost to Rose Namajunas, and then she beat Jasmine on the feet. But Jasmine's kind of a punching bag when she can't get the takedowns there. So Tracy Cortez looking career best in that fight with Jasmine, because again, Jasmine just plods forward a little bit there. And Rose was giving Tracy some issues with the distance, closing the distance. Rose gave the same issues to Blanchfield, but Blanchfield picked up in rounds 3, 4, and 5, ended up closing it because Rose sort of started to slow down a little bit. So for me, it comes down to the takedown defense of Cortez. I think Cortez wants to keep the fight standing. I think she's a little bit better striker on the feet. She has a nice jab, uses a lot of like outside low kicks. Blanchfield only targets the legs about 7% of the time. So Tracy has definitely more volume. And I think that Tracy's going to outstrike her on the feet. So it comes down to, again, the grappling, the offensive grappling here of Blanchfield, the defensive grappling of Cortez. And, one of the things, the reason we were on Manon Fiorot so big was that Manon Fiorot was very hard to take down. She has a lot of movement, and in that fight, she didn't even sniff a takedown. She wasn't even close to a takedown. The fight before that, she went 0-14 on takedowns against Talia Santos. Rose even had some moments. She only got her down twice on 8 attempts. So Blanchfield's BJJ is great, top level, but her wrestling isn't. And I think that Tracy Cortez has better wrestling. I think Blanchfield has better BJJ. And, if Tracy Cortez does give up the takedown, we saw Rose Namajunas get to mount twice. Where she got to mount, Tracy Cortez got back up, and Rose got her back down, got back to mount again, and then I think even got her back there. So I think that if that position presents itself, that Erin Blanchfield will probably do more in mount. She attacks submissions, all that stuff. So I think that, again, if she does get taken down, it's probably a Blanchfield round. Cortez does do a good job of scrambling back up to her feet, though, and making the fight close. If you do go back and watch the very first fight of them, again, this was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, so not much to take out of it. And Blanchfield was very raw. You can see in her striking, not really there, but her striking has improved. I just don't think it's that good as it is right now. I think she can get outstruck. I think that Tracy Cortez can win a decision because she keeps the fight standing and picks her apart on the feet there. You talked about both girls not really having power. I agree. And you talked about both girls not really being able to find the submission. I kind of agree there. I think that Blanchfield will get sub attempts. She always looks for like arm bars and whatnot. And I could see it being like a round where Blanchfield's in on a submission, 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, where she's fighting the submission and Cortez fights out of it, stands back up, and then, up picks her apart on the feet there. And then who do you give the round to? So I could see it being a split decision. I see it being pretty close. I lean Blanchfield if I have to make a pick because I think a couple of takedowns probably steal her enough control. But judges aren't really favoring control these days. I just, maybe the sub attempts swing her in that area, but it's kind of hard. I think it's the wrestling that keeps the fight standing. Cortez decision doesn't surprise me, but you could maybe look for a spread bet, Cortez 3.5. Something like that if you think it goes to split and you think it goes to decision. I think GTD is probably minus 400, minus 300. So split decision at plus 400, probably not a bad look because I think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I like that, man. But for me though, last week I thought that Denise Gomes was going to end up in a close fight with Pennington. I thought Pennington plus 3.5 was going to be a really good look. And the young fighter just showed up and got the damn thing done. 30-27s across the board. I even threw a half unit on a live bet at plus 750 because I thought round 2 was close, that like maybe there was a shot we were 1-1 going into round 3, and just wrong all the way across the board. So yeah. So that, with me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, maybe that's the same situation here. Like maybe this looks like it's going to be really close and we're just going to see the next level of evolution from Erin Blanchfield. So I'm not messing with it.
Wouldn't surprise me if she just mauls her on the ground.
Exactly.
30-27 with like 14 minutes of control. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But we've seen deficiencies in order to get the fight down to the ground. Just Erin Blanchfield is improving week by week, right? So
exactly,
you have to build that in.
Yep. One of those fighters I'm just not stepping in front of. Somo with a hilarious comment, though. Tracy Cortez is the Bo Nickal of women, which kind of, makes a little bit of sense. I'll take it. Shout out,
has better striking the bow.
Yeah. What's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. Last week's guest, we put on an awesome show for you guys for last week. So appreciate you being in the chat here, Dravi. Good to see you, buddy. And Isaac Dilgarian chimes in with this being a split decision. But Isaac, buddy, who's winning the split? I don't have you hanging around in my chat to tell me it'll be a split decision. You're the one with the knowledge of where the judges are going to go. You got to tell us who wins the split decision. Come on now.
I think with all this like gambling stuff going on, we need to know who the judges are up front. Like give us the judges and the referees today. Like let me know now so that I can like base my bets at least around it. Keeping it hidden.
I've been talking about that for years. I've been talking about that for years. How is that not a thing? How do the judges get assigned 6 hours before the damn fights? Yeah. How do we not know 2 days in advance who is going to be judging every single fight and in what order on this fucking card? Because for us, man, it'd be like baseball. Like when you've got a jackass umpire who's gonna really widen the batter box and he's gonna call a bunch of strikes that aren't strikes. You know that before you bet the game. Like you've got a shot to make a better bet because the guy sitting behind the plate. Give us the same opportunity with these judges. All right. It's already corrupt as shit. Just let us know who it's going to be so we can kind of, pick off some tendencies and stuff like that here every once in a while. We need that info.
There's probably some stats on like what judges favor control versus damage. There's always those swing rounds where like one judge is completely off because they just like damage more or they like control more or something like that. I think you could put together a package of judges and be pretty accurate with it. Yep.
1000%, man. My boy Tim in the chat, Erin had a deep armbar in her first fight. Interesting note. So
she fought that armbar maybe like 3-4 minutes. The problem with Blanchfield is that she didn't have the power. It was like 2v2 and Blanchfield just had to pull on the arm, but Cortez was just stronger and she couldn't extend the arm. So she never finished it, but Cortez had to fight out of the position. So I still think Cortez is probably a little bit stronger.
See, and now we get the answer here. Okay, so it is Erin by split decision per Isaac Dilgarian. Everybody take notes. Take notes. And Premium Picks says, Art is like the final boss. You run your picks by him, and if he approves or disapproves before you place your bets. I love that. That's so true. All right, guys, let's keep this thing rolling. Next up, we've got Sean Brady taking on Michael Morales. Now, this, I mean, we're getting into the nitty gritty, you guys. We're getting into the shit right now because this card takes off at this stage of the evening. We just talked about a contenders fight for the women. This is getting very close to a contenders fight for the men. Sean Brady has been hovering around the background. He's been sniffing for his title opportunity for a long time, and he's put together this recent run that's really put him in a position to be calling for that belt really soon here. 18-1, 32 years old, in his prime. He's a Philly Gracie guy, which, by the way, for the first time in my life, I'll be rooting for Philly this evening. They play the Packers here tonight, so, can't be cheering for the Packers, so I guess go Philly, whatever. So Sean Brady, coming off of choking out Leon Edwards. Man, I'm shocked he's not just pulling, what everybody else used to do in this weight class, where you just sit out. And you're like, nah, I just beat the former champion. My fight, my title fight next. Everybody does that shit. So I nothing but respect to him for getting back in there, becoming undeniable, taking another fight, especially taking a fight against a young, tough kid like Michael Morales in this spot to just be unquestionable, just absolutely seal the deal.
He talked about it on his podcast, and he said, like, he's going to have to fight this guy regardless, so he wants to fight him now. But I agree. You want to get the belt first before you take on these contenders. It's not an easy fight
that
for
attitude.
him, but yeah, he said, like, I'm going to have to fight him regardless. I'll fight whoever. But yeah, he should be waiting for the belt.
From the couch, I love that attitude. Like, it's not the best idea from a fighter perspective. You probably should just wait for your chance for the title. But from the couch, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, that's the way to do it. Bilal had that same type of attitude. I remember the era where you had Colby, Masvidal, Leon, and Usman, and none of them wanted to fight each other. It was the worst era of 170 the UFC's ever seen, where those guys were all just like, no, that guy, no, I'm not fighting that guy. Like, they refused to fight each other for a number one contender spot. People sat on the shelf for 2 years at a time to wait for a title shot. It was awful. So give me all the Sean Brady, man. Love his grappling. Love his just look at the back on this guy. I have to talk about it every time, dude. The squeeze he's got, the ability to just clinch onto somebody, you're never breaking that grip. You're never getting him off you if he clinches onto you. He is so big. He is so strong. It is crazy. Now, Michael Morales is 18-0. He's just 26 years old, and this kid has been absolutely impressive, man. He's huge. He's freaking huge. He is growing into that frame, and he really caught a rocket ship and jumped off ever since Dana White's Contender Series. His last 4 fights, Max Griffin, Jake Matthews, Neil Magny, Gilbert Burns. And as he's climbing up that ladder, he's getting more and more impressive, right? Guys like Max Griffin taking him to a decision. He's sparking Neil Magny and Gilbert Burns early. So this guy is getting better. He's fast. He's intelligent. He's got good movement. I love his striking. He's big. He's tall. He's long for the weight class. This kid's got a really bright future regardless of what happens on Saturday, but he could just be like an undefeated prospect shooting straight up for the title shot, and he's 1 win away. If he knocks out Sean Brady, I mean, what's stopping him? So it's a 15-minute fight. I wish this one was 5. Like, I know we've got a bunch of fights still left on this card, and we've got 3 more fights to talk about before the main event, but I would love this to be a 5-round fight. I love this fight for this card, but this could headline any fight night, in my opinion. I would have loved it. Tough fight, man. I feel like Brady is at a point in his career where, like I mentioned before, he is doing his best to become undeniable. And Michael Morales is an incredibly hot prospect, but I don't think he's ever dealt with anybody like Sean Brady on the mat. Now, I know Gilbert Burns is an incredible submission grappler, and he has been world class. And I say has been world class because Burns ain't the same guy anymore, you guys. I was the captain of the Burns train for a long time there. We took stabs on Dariush at dog odds many times and successfully for a couple of years there. But he's getting old. At 39 years old, Gilbert Burns not being able to out-grapple you. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm turning my nose up at him or anything. He's still very, very impressive, but he's not what he used to be. I think Sean Brady can have success where Gilbert Burns kind of fell apart. So I have to lean with Sean Brady here in this fight. I do kind of think maybe Michael Morales can survive, It took him until round 4 to get Leon Edwards out of there. He took Burns to a decision. I kind of think he can make it the full 15 minutes. So my prediction is going to be Sean Brady by decision. But you can't ever count out the fact that he can grab onto something because the guy's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a big Sean Brady fan. If it wasn't for the top of the top elite, I think he would be champion. I'd be looking for that in 2026 there. But like you said, this is a levels game, and comparing Gilbert Burns at the tail end of his career, Neil Magny at the tail end of his career, even Jake Matthews, Matt Griffin, like these guys aren't comparable to Sean Brady, right? So on paper, it comes down to the takedown defense of Morales here, right? He has an 89% takedown defense versus the only 54% takedown offense for Brady. But who is he really allowing these takedowns to, right? He allowed one takedown to Gilbert Burns, like you talked about, one to Adam Fugit, and one to Trevin Giles, right? None of these guys have anything, compared to Sean Brady, right? And Fugit was able to get some top time. It looked like he was going to get to mount. I think he rushed the transition and let Morales back up. But again, Brady doesn't do that. His top time his control is somewhat elite, right? And you think about Sean Brady, some of these guys that he's fought and finished. Leon Edwards has been one of those guys has historically known for their takedown defense. And Leon Edwards has fought some high-level grapplers, Colby Covington, Muhammad Usman, all these big wrestler guys, and he's shown pretty good takedown defense. Leon Edwards got controlled for 14 minutes of that fight, had no real answer, off of his back there. Ended up getting choked out. Now, if you look at that sequence, it was a guillotine choke, but it was like a one-armed mounted guillotine. He uses like his lat and his arm, and he gets enough leverage just from there to finish him. It's just like the tightest squeeze imaginables, right? So I think that Sean Brady's fought a lot. Well, competition like Mike Morales, that good strikers, good movement, good on the feet, good prospect, good power. But Mike Morales has never fought anybody like remotely close to Sean Brady on the ground there. So I see Sean Brady having like minus 400, minus 500 upside, just a complete mauling on the ground. Whereas Michael Morales has to keep the fight standing. Sean Brady on the feet is not a slouch on the feet. It's not like he's one dimensional. I can't strike either. Sean Brady does have some striking. I favor obviously Morales in a pure striking fight, but Sean Brady will have his moments. He'll strike towards to get himself into the clinch, and it's just his takedowns are so creative. When he gets the back, his drops, his lat drops to get you down to the ground. He does everything right for the wrestling, and the control is just there. So I can see Sean Brady submitting him. Wouldn't surprise me. We haven't really seen Michael Morales tested by any kind of grappler. I know he hasn't been obviously finished, but to the level of competition wouldn't surprise me. Sean Brady's live to submit anybody, right? And people often bring up the Bilal Muhammad, getting knocked out, and I agree it's not a great look, but Bilal Muhammad has a granite chin, and he has somewhat of the best takedown defense. So you can't get the grappling game off on Bilal, and you're sort of forced to strike. Bilal ended up catching him. I know he has pillow fists and whatever, and it's a bad look, but it's the type of game plan where I don't think Morales can defend the takedowns as well and start him on the, obviously he's live for a KO. That's probably most likely path. I don't really see him submitting Brady, and to win a decision would have to be multiple knockdowns. So his path is probably KO, whereas Brady has everything else. And I think it's a Brady fight, 11 minutes control in Edwards, 11 to Gilbert Burns, 9 to Gastelum, 7 to Chiesa. Like these guys are just, on the same level as Morales. But again, I think it's Brady all day here.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Dan was ready and waiting for you on that one. Any comment on Chiesa rocking Brady on the feet or Bilal TKOing Brady striking? And yeah, I'm with Art on that one. Like I feel like Bilal just kind of caught him perfect with the right shot. You don't need all the power in the world if you just clip the right spot. And I think I don't want to call it lucky. You guys know I'm Team Bilal. I've always been Team Bilal. So like I don't want to say it was lucky, but like he hit the button. You know what I mean? The fact that he hit the button and didn't knock him out cold, like that tells you the kind of power that we're dealing with Bilal. He's not a knockout threat. But I do think that the Chiesa one is maybe a little bit concerning because Chiesa is not much to write home about when it comes to the striking in general. But if Brady can get the takedown, stick to him like glue, that's definitely an option. I just don't know. Tim said it best, I think. I got to scroll back up here and find my boy Tim's comment. Where'd it go? He said, if Giles, Fugit, and Burns get to take down on you, then Brady can too. And that's For me, that's all it is. So we'll see what happens. But it's a very, very binary fight. If it gets to the ground, then it's Brady all day. And if it stays on the feet, then Brady's probably getting his ass whooped. So, take that dog shot if you want. Good luck. I lean Brady. I don't know if I'm getting involved in this one betting, man. I really don't know that I will. Next up, I am very, very excited. We have got Dariush taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. It is God of War fight week, ladies and gentlemen. You guys know I am captain of the ship. Benoit Saint-Denis is my boy. I was one round away from being able to at least hedge my Benoit Saint-Denis 30-1 champion props last year. The UFC loves Benoit Saint-Denis. He is a freak of nature, physically speaking. He's a Dricus du Plessis-esque fighter where his physicality just overwhelms his opponent and makes up for deficiencies in the skills. And most people just can't be in the cage with this animal for more than 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter that he's not quite as good as you because he is that much of a beast. He is just 29 years old. So he's still very young, still very capable of improving, and a bit of a fluke. His KO loss to Renato Moicano. I still say if we run that one back, we'll see a very different result. He got on track. We got the big cash against Mauricio Huffy. Like, we're all good. We're all good with BSD. This one's frankly, you guys, it feels like sanctioned murder here to me. Benny Dariush is a legend, right? 36 years old, extremely skilled, out-scrambled guys like Matheus Gamrot back in the day. He's a guy that I feel like the UFC waited out Benny Dariush. On his best day 3 years ago, this guy was champion caliber. And he's got big power. He's got jiu-jitsu off the charts. Very good wrestler. Like, this guy had everything you were looking for, but he missed his window. I feel like he missed his window, and now he is on the backslide. Now he's not quite the same guy. Now he's 36 years old. Now he's setting up life outside of fighting, outside the cage. And that name is going to be spectacular on Benoit Saint-Denis' resume. The chin is going a little bit. We saw that against Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. He did get a big win in his last fight against Renato Moicano, which was pretty impressive, actually. It looked much easier than I expected it to be. But frankly, you guys, that's the fight I thought we were going to see from Benoit Saint-Denis when he fought Renato Moicano, right? Like that's what I expected to happen. So grappling, you can say levels, all that kind of stuff. But when you're in control, you can kind of catch your breath. When you're not in control, you're the one fighting and panicking, and that's when the gas tank drains. I think Benoit Saint-Denis will be able to out-wrestle Beneil Dariush, and I think he's just more vicious. I think he'll be able to land some elbows in the clinch, and once Benny gets a little bit rocked, I think that'll change the course of the fight. One of these guys can take a punch, the other cannot, and that's kind of what it comes down to. Benoit will never quit on himself. You literally have to kill this man. French Special Forces, we got to bring that up every single time. He will not quit in that cage. Benny Dariush, we've seen him get tucked on the chin once or twice and go down. I think Benoit can knock this guy out. I think Benoit can get this guy on the ground, and I don't know if he'll submit him. I know Benoit's got like a really tight squeeze on him, but I think ground and pound is probably far more likely. So yeah, I think it's BSD, and I think it's BSD via murder.
Yeah, like you said, if this fight was maybe 5 years ago, then Benny would definitely be the side and stuff. But again, he's one of those guys, end of his career, slowing down a little bit. And, I was on Benny against Moicano, and I thought that the narrative was like, yeah, he got knocked out by Charles Oliveira, who knocks out guys all the time. And then the Arman Tsarukyan was a knee up the middle where he got rocked and stuff. So I kind of gave him a pass in those two fights. Those are the top three of the division. And, getting knocked out by those guys, not, anything to be afraid about. But then he fights Moicano, and Moicano drops him in the first round. And I'm like, oh, man, Moicano really doesn't have any power either. And that was a bad look. So I was like, man, maybe his chin is gone. And, Dariush was able to bounce back. He used the grappling, to get Moicano on his back. Moicano really doesn't have takedown defense because he's savvy off his back. He likes to play the BJJ game. So Dariush was able to, rack up some control time, end up winning a decision there, right? So the thing with Saint-Denis, and you touched on it, like he's one of those guys, he can go full zombie mode. He can take an absolute beating. He's super durable. He just eats shots like breakfast, and he just keeps coming, right? And he has endless cardio. He grapples himself. He looks for takedowns, and so, his loss to Poirier, I kind of give him an excuse to the Poirier fight because I think he came into that with staff. He even said it walking out of the octagon that he felt completely zapped and he's completely different. And that one, he seemed to slow down. He won round one against Poirier, getting his back, all that stuff, and then just ended up slowing down. And then the Moicano fight, yeah, it's a bad look, but Moicano ends up catching a kick and then getting to top time. Whereas I thought BSD would get the grappling going. And then with Moicano on top, he did get some ground and pound, opened up a cut on his face, which ended up leading to the stoppage, right? And like you said, it looked like BSD was coming back. I thought he won round two even with a mangled face, and he was going to continue to win that fight there. So for for Benny here, it's probably going to have to follow the same game plan as the Boicano fight, where he grapples. Maybe he gets to top time. Maybe he does some damage. Right. It wouldn't surprise me if Dariush is the better grappler of the two. But I think that BSD at this point can keep the fight standing. It's very hard to take BSD down if you're not catching a kick. And then on the feet, I think it's BSD all day with volume, forward pressure. This is going to be a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. So Benny likes to kick, but BSD also likes to kick. He likes to kick the body as well. So I think BSD striking is more diverse. What I find with Dariush is that when he does enter the pocket, he throws the left and then he sort of squares up, and that's why he's getting caught, right? And he's like he's not keeping the bladed stance, he's not keeping the head up, and then when he does get rocked, he's sort of like there's like a second delay or half second where he just like it takes him a while. So any kind of volume put together can really put his lights out there. So I kind of favor BSD just because if BSD can make it a firefight or anything in the clinch or any kind of big moments, I favor BSD all day. I think Dariush is grappling to a decision, probably his path to victory. I don't think he's subbing BSD. And then on the feet, it's just BSD so durable that I don't think he's KOing him there. So I give all the upside to BSD. I think he wins. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a round one KO. Wouldn't surprise me if it's decision and he just keeps it standing and whatnot. But I lean BSD here.
Man, the only thing that I worry about is we saw what happened to him when he got countered by Dustin Poirier. Now, I know everybody was worried about like the staph infection and all that kind of stuff, but he really does like lean face first in, trying to get in there and punch his opponent in the mouth and hurt them. Benny's got power. Man, Benny's got like really underrated power in his hands. We have seen him knock people out before. We have seen him hurt people before. I'd be tempted on this plus money under 1.5. I feel like this fight ends early and it ends violently. Like either BSD gets completely fraud checked and gets dropped by Benny super early, or Benny is old and Benoit Saint-Denis puts an elbow to the side of his head. Like I kind of feel like this is a violent fight. Getting plus money on an under 1.5 in this kind of fight, I think makes at least a little bit of sense. We'll see what ends up happening. I definitely lean BSD inside the distance though.
Yeah, I get it. It's so hard to put BSD out, right? Benny has power, but he's getting older. Hasn't had a knockdown in a couple of fights. Against the last one was against Gamrot. Would surprise me if Benny won by a KO, especially early. I think if it finishes early, it's probably on the BSD side. But I get the play, and understandable.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. Next up, we have got Leon Rocky Edwards taking on Carlos Prates. And it's Hate Watch Fight Week again, you guys. You know I can't stand Leon. You guys know I can't stand Leon Edwards. I already bitched a little bit about how he would sit out on the sideline for 2 years at a time, waiting and crying for his title shot rather than getting in there and winning. A lot of people give me a lot of flack for this. So give me just a minute here, Art. I'm going to go over this here because people just do not seem to understand, okay? The level of ducking that Leon Edwards did to get to the title, and then the amount of luck that it took for him to actually take that title. I am so happy that the fade train is here on this guy, okay? Because you go all the way back to 2018, and the resume that Leon Edwards built to become undeniable to get his title shot with was built off the backs of career lightweights at 170 pounds. Donald Cerrone in 2018. He won a split decision over Gunnar Nelson, who's one of the smaller 170-pounders and probably should have been fighting at 155, but just never cut the weight. Rafael Dos Anjos, who I have massive respect for, but once again was a 155er. And then he sits out for literally 2 years, pulls out of multiple Khamzat Chimaev fights, and then he faces none other than Belal Muhammad. The UFC finally said, you know what? You have to fight Belal Muhammad. We're not taking no for an answer. He eye pokes the shit out of Belal Muhammad, okay? Literally the worst eye poke we've ever seen in UFC history. That one where he pulled Belal's eyelid out by like 2 inches. Yeah, just an awful, brutal eye poke. What do? they treat that fight as though Leon Edwards had won the fight, Art. They gave him the win, even though he fouled his opponent to death. All right. That's a no contest. It doesn't matter. They give him a title eliminator 5-round main event against Nate Diaz. And what happens that night? He nearly got TKO'd by Nate fucking Diaz in round 5. This guy almost got knocked out by a career lightweight who was ready to walk away from MMA and was just moonlighting at 170 for big paychecks and title opportunities. So he almost gets iced in round 5, barely survives that fight. If Nate had not showboated to the crowd, he would have gotten a title shot after that fight because he would have finished him off. But instead, he's pointing at him and laughing at him and letting him recover. So then he gets the fight against Kamaru Usman. And it's the Rocky you want it moment, right? It's the speech in the corner. It's the big comeback head kick. Well, let me tell you, he was down 3-1 on judges' scorecards. He was not in that fight. Usman was beating his ass, and his corner had to like summon his ancestors from inside him to give him even just a little bit of effort in round 5 in a title fight. He quit, man. He quit. He crumpled in that moment. He was done. And you know what happened? He kicked Usman in the dick. So we've got a minute left in the fight in the 5th round, and he kicks Usman in the dick, and that's what opens up the headshot. Usman doesn't want to get kicked in the junk again, and he doesn't get his hands up in time, and that's the bang, kill, headshot, dead moment that got Leon Edwards the belt. Every single one of it, every single step of the way, it was all a fluke. And what happens? They immediately rematch against Kamaru Usman. Well, we all know now that Kamaru Usman was broken going into that fight. We know Kamaru Usman was not the same man going into that rematch. So, okay, Leon Edwards legitimately defends the title against Kamaru Usman in the immediate rematch just a couple of months later. And he beat Colby Covington, I'll give you that. But 2023 Colby Covington is not the same thing as 2018 Colby Covington. So, again, I pin in that one. I don't give a fuck about that fight, quite frankly. And then we see what happens when they actually put Belal Muhammad in the cage with Leon Edwards. Belal whooped his ass. Belal dragged his ass around the cage for 25 straight minutes. So I've been fading Leon these last 2 fights. I faded him with Colby as well. So I missed on Colby, obviously, but cashing the last 2 bets in a row against him with Belal and Sean, seeing him break, seeing him quit, seeing his corner, trying to pull that effort out of him again against Sean Brady. This man has reached the mountaintop, Art. It was fraudulent getting there in the first place, but he reached the mountaintop. And he's never getting back to it ever again. He doesn't have it in him to pull himself up by his bootstraps and climb back up to that moment ever again. So now he gets Carlos Prates. I've had my issues with Carlos Prates. I worry about the smoking cardio. It doesn't seem to affect him for God knows what reason. The dude's a freak of nature. He's a superhuman, apparently. I've talked about how he's kind of losing the fight right up until the moment where he wins it. But I almost think he's a worst-case scenario matchup here for Leon Edwards. The guy can grapple. So if Leon tries to take him down and use his wrestling, Carlos is going to be able to sweep and reverse him, use the butterfly, buck him off, get back to the feet. And then on the feet, Leon is a patient striker just looking for that one big head kick, whereas Carlos Prates has kicks. He's got the calf kick. He's got the knees. He's got that long reach. He's got the hooks. Like, he's got such a wide variety of offense. I think Carlos Prates is clearly the better striker, and he's got the death touch, man. This guy's got unreal power. And if he connects on Leon Edwards, if Nate Diaz is rocking with you, God, I can only imagine what Carlos Prates is going to do. This is a Prates smash spot, in my opinion, and I think Carlos Prates is going to knock Leon Edwards out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. You know what? You make some good points. You know, career lightweights there, and somewhat of a fluky run there. One thing I'll add to your fire here. It's a big bonfire that's going. I'll just add some gas there. But Leon Edwards has fought a lot of grapplers, right? And he's looking good as the stand-up guy with good takedown defense against grapplers. Brady, Belal, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, Belal Muhammad, Rafael Dos Anjos, Gunnar Nelson. All of those are grapplers, right? So Carlos Prates is easily the best striker that he's fought. And even then, Leon Edwards doesn't really impress me on the ground. He's not, or on the feet. Like, he's not a big time hitter. This one's going to be striker versus striker. Edwards is going to be southpaw. whereas Prates can switch stances. And right away, I look at Prates. He targets the leg at 16% of the time at 80% accuracy. You talked about those low kicks. Edwards doesn't throw as many low kicks as Prates, and Prates works those knees in the clinch. I just think Prates has so many more weapons in the clinch, his elbows, his knees, his kicks to the body, more volume even. And I think he's going to be faster. I think Leon's, slowing down. Um, I think that the fighting the grapplers made him look a little bit better in the stand-up than he probably actually is. He hasn't had to deal with the low kicks since really Colby Covington because guys are really grappling on him. But I think the low kicks can really add up here. It feels like Leon Edwards is a lot older, but he's only 2 years older. And but you talked about it as well. It's somewhat of the fight IQ and the urgency. Being down 3-1 and not changing anything. His dad's in the car. Come on, Leon, you can do it. Like all the stuff yelling at, and there's no like any change in game plan. There's no switch. He sort of fights not to lose or not to get finished. He's content with just going to decision sort of thing, right? So it's hard to back those type of guys, especially with Carlos Prates, who's going to probably put him in some tough situations, hurt him a little bit, make him want to quit there. And, if you show him the door, maybe he just takes his way out and whatnot. So I got to go with Prates here, right? We saw, Prates in the 5-round fight, he was getting destroyed by Ian Gary, but Ian Gary's more of a stick and move distance guy, right? Prates couldn't really deal with the distance. And then we saw in that fight, round 5, Prates ends up landing, fights to finish him. There's some weird situation where he didn't follow up with a ground and pound, whatever, but he fights for your money. He fights to win versus, Leon Edwards in round 5, completely different, right? So outside of the Usman head kick, Edwards doesn't have a knockdown since 2019 against Gunnar Nelson, where again he only won a close split decision, right? So I think this is all Prates. I don't think Edwards finishes Prates. I think all the finishing side is on the Prates side. I like Prates to win, probably by finish. Wouldn't surprise me if it went to decision, just based on how timid or tentative Edwards can be, being more defensive than opening up and really letting it loose. So I like Prates in this one.
All right. I'm glad we line up on that one. I was worried I was going to give that whole little monologue and you'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Like that. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And Dizzle in the chat. Okay. First off, those two things are not comparable. We're talking about gambling. We bet numbers here. So me saying Leon Sexton and then betting Cedric Dumas is not the same thing. And may I remind you, I'm net positive on Cedric Dumas because he's always a big plus money underdog. So when you hit one or two of those, it makes up for the L's that you take when he gets one punched by Nickal Oleksiejczuk. So it's not the same thing. But yes, I get the point. If you guys want to back the former champion here, I totally understand it. I think it's changing of the guard time. And frankly, once I've seen somebody quit like that in the cage, they're forever on my fade list. Like once I see the fire die, like him getting coached to stand up and screamed at, and then he gets his big moment, lets out all that adrenaline. Like that was it. That was the moment. Now they're screaming at him between rounds every single fight. He's deaf to it. It doesn't matter. He doesn't do anything differently. They just scream at him constantly between rounds every single fight. So yeah, no, I'm done with Leon. I think Leon's done too. And I'm glad Art agrees with me because I think Carlos is going to have a good week this week, which means I am also going to have a good week this week. All right, guys. Next up, you've got Valentina Shevchenko, and she takes on Weili Zhang. We have a pound-for-pound women's MMA glory legacy type fight here for this one. This is going to be fantastic. Valentina Shevchenko. Oh, boy. Art, like, what's left to say? We've broken down this woman every way possible. Unless this is your very first time tuning into the show and you've never watched the UFC ever before, like, you know that Valentina is good literally everywhere. She's incredible. She is the greatest. She is so well-rounded. She can wrestle. She can kickbox. She's got power for women's MMA as well. So she can finish the fight if she needs to on the feet and on the ground. She can tactically piece you apart for 25 straight minutes. She never gets tired. Like, she's 37 years old. She's aging like fine wine, man. She is absolutely incredible. Destroyed Manon Fiorot. I took my shot with Alexa Grasso, and frankly, man, I got a little high on my horse. I got the first upset with Alexa Grasso, where she hit that sub. And then I lost money every single fight after that because I kept thinking Grasso was the next big thing, right? I thought Grasso was taking over. Val came back with a vengeance and proved that she got caught. She's human. She made a mistake, and she's still on top of everybody right now. Weili Zhang coming up a weight class. She's been phenomenal. She's 36 years old. So she's a little bit older. she's been fighting smaller women. I always am cautious about the fighters that are coming up a weight class for these type of legacy type of fights. She's probably going to have a little bit of a speed advantage. We know she's worked really hard on her grappling, and that was the one place where Alexa Grasso was able to catch Valentina Shevchenko. So maybe Zhang Weili, with her improved grappling skill set, can go out there and do something. She likes to get crucifixes on people and elbow them and build damage from those positions. But I don't know if she can be a bully like that against Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know if Zhang will be strong enough up a weight class to take her down, get on top of her, and beat her to those kinds of positions. So then if we get a striking matchup, I'm never picking against Valentina Shevchenko in a striking matchup. If it's kickboxing at range, I'm never picking against Valentina Shevchenko unless it's maybe Amanda Nunes. You know what I mean? So this one's tough for me, man. But I do think that it's Valentina Shevchenko legacy season. I'm kind of surprised that the fight is lined the way that it is. We are very close to a pick'em. It is slight chalk on the side of Valentina Shevchenko. And like I said, that just really surprises me. I would assume that Valentina would be a larger favorite in this position. I know we have to respect Zhang. We absolutely have to give her like the credit that she is due. But let's not forget that Rose Namajunas head kicked her in the head and knocked her out cold in the first round that one time. Like, she's not invulnerable, and Valentina is a lot bigger and hits a lot harder. So yeah, I like Shevchenko this weekend, man. What about you?
So this fight's funny because okay, so after the Grasso fight, right? Or after the Furo fight, that was in May, and Shevchenko usually only fights once a year. I saw a line of Valentina Shevchenko to be champion at the end of the year, minus 110, something like that, and I was like, there's no way she's fighting again by the end of the year. So I smashed Valentina Shevchenko to be champion. Little did I know that Zhang Weili was vacating the belt to come up and fight for a contenders fight. So I already have some Shevchenko because of that futures bet. But I'll be honest, if I didn't, I'd kind of lean Zhang Weili here, and it's close. So you bring up the Grasso fight, and I was on the other side on the Grasso fights all three times, right? Shevchenko was beating Grasso up until she spun and she gave up her back and then got choked out, right? Sort of a fluky win there by Grasso, and then in the rematch fights Grasso again. Grasso was picking her apart sort of on the feet. Valentina needed the grappling to somewhat stay competitive. Somehow, again, Grasso gets the back in round 5. Some judge gives it a 10-8 round and ends up being a draw, which it shouldn't have been a draw. It should have been Shevchenko to win. And
corruption
then
at its finest.
Yeah, Grasso gets to keep the belt. And then in the third fight, again, Grasso Valentina, it was just the takedown defense of Grasso that couldn't keep the fight on the feet. That Valentina was able to, get some grappling going and, get it from there, right? So the thing, and then the Furo fight, we were on Shevchenko pretty big as well. And that one's, it's just a stylistic matchup for Shevchenko. Like, Furo's used to guys, chasing her down, trying to track her down. She has a lot of movement on the feet. She's, stick and moving, a lot of hayas, stuff like that. But Shevchenko just plants her feet in the center. She just says, the center is mine, you come to me, sort of thing. And she's content with just standing there, right? She's more of a counter striker than anything. And she will look to grapple there. You talked about Zhang Weili as well. She does have, I guess the people on Shevchenko see the grappling path for Shevchenko. I just don't know how prominent it is. Like, she's sort of shored up that hole. She fought Rose, and Rose, I think that was more of a cardio thing than anything. Rose getting the takedowns into the later rounds there. But other than that, Zhang Weili's sort of like gone through the division. She's just like destroyed guys. She finished Yan Shannon 3 times, and ended up winning a decision, right? So I think it's close. It's the speed advantage for Zhang Weili on the feet. I think that she has more dynamic strikes of the outside kicks and stuff. Valentina taking the center of the cage can make it competitive. I don't think Shevchenko has enough power to put out Zhang Weili unless it is a head kick. So I think the strikes, there's a little bit more finishing upside for the Zhang Weili in terms of power. I don't know if she finishes either. And then the grappling kind of cancels out itself as well. Kind of lean the over, kind of seeing it being a close competitive fight. Yeah, I don't know. I could see it being, one of the last fights for both girls. I don't know if retirement's on the horizon there or what the rationale for moving up was. But it could be one of those where, one of them retires at the end of the fight. Gun to the head, I probably take Weili as a pick. But I'm sort of set on Shevchenko right now at the current price. I might arb off if the Zhang Weili price comes up where I can get some money back in free roll or whatever. But I'm not confident on the Shevchenko side. I think her having to rely on the grappling against Grasso was kind of a red flag, and I don't know if she can just continue to attack the grappling against Zhang Weili. Don't forget that Manon Fiorot got the takedown, got some top time against Shevchenko as well. I think it's probably pretty close.
Okay. And that's the kind of thing that I know I shouldn't be confident, Art. The line tells me I shouldn't be confident. You know what I mean? Like if everyone and their mother knows Valentina Shevchenko is the GOAT, Valentina Shevchenko is on this historic run, and the line's pick 'em, is like, okay, like somebody knows something I don't. And that's the kind of thing where I've fallen into that trap many, many, many times. I'm not betting it. It's a closely lined fight. It will probably play out closer. I'm probably not giving Zhang some credit where she is potentially due. Maybe I'm missing a little bit of something, and that's why I'm not giving it to her. But the line, as a gambler, I know the line tells me I need to be a little bit cautious of this one.
How does Shevchenko really win? Like, if you think she's confident, like how does she come out like looking like a -300 favorite sort of thing? Like, I'm just for discussion purposes because I know a lot of people on the Shevchenko side, but I don't really know what the argument is other than like maybe grappling.
Yeah, I think the grappling is kind of a big part of it, being the larger woman, being able to, get control time from top position, and then just maybe controlling the range. The way that she keeps you at the end of her kicks, the way that she keeps you at space and distance. Like if Zhang isn't able to land damage when she crashes the pocket and stuff like that, if you have to take that slow pace that Shevchenko likes to keep you stuck at, she can just kind of salt away rounds, and that's something I'll come back to this. Antonio in the chat saying, you're just saying things. How does Shevchenko dominate Manon if it was 48-47? That's exactly kind of my point, right? At the end of that fight, you knew exactly who won. Right? So the judges' scorecards are saying that it's a close fight. She won 3-2. Nobody is picking Manon Fiorot at the end of that fight. And personally, I thought it was 4-1. So, like, I thought she dominated that fight. I thought she controlled everything. I thought she controlled the space. I thought she controlled the grappling. I thought she landed the better shots for the most part. I mean, like, it was a close but clear kind of fight. And to me, that makes sense. So maybe you don't like my word use or word choice of domination for that, but that's exactly what I mean. And I don't think there's much argument to be made for Manon Fiorot. So yeah, I felt she dominated that fight. And that's kind of what I think the same thing here is, that she will just win each round. Even if they're close rounds, she will find a way to be the one who wins the moment. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, I know I'm missing something, because if the line was -200 Shevchenko, I would feel like I'm on the right side. The line is -130 Shevchenko, and that tells me I'm giving I'm not giving enough credit to Zhang Weili. All right, guys.
Yeah.
It is main event time. Smash that like button. Make sure you check out Art. Give him a follow. Share the show. Get subscribed. Main event time. Let's take a look at cloudbet.com. You guys, make sure you're getting signed up. Cash in on that $2,500 welcome bonus so that you can bet on Jack Della and Islam Makhachev. Jack Della Maddalena. I said that a little too quick. There you go. For all of you, the police in the chat for the pronunciations. Man, what a fight. 18-2 versus 27-1. I love this fight so much, you guys. So I've been a little bit of a hater on Islam Makhachev, and I think that stems from me trying to beat Khabib. I was just, for whatever reason, I know he's the GOAT, I was always like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. And for whatever reason, that's rolled right on over to Islam. Like, I keep thinking I'm going to get him, right? He's proven to be just as damn good as Khabib. 34 years old, massive at lightweight. The thing that gets me is it's almost a Leon Edwards type situation for the most part with Islam Makhachev, because you look at the guys that we've had in this weight class, and the only real name like that on the resume of Islam is Charles Oliveira, right? Dustin Poirier, I'm so sorry. I love Dustin. I'm not trying to slander him whatsoever. We know he can be taken down. We know he gives up his back. We know he gets submitted. Like, these high-level grapplers are the kryptonite for Dustin Poirier. He's a tough out. He's a tough test, but that's always been how he loses fights. We knew he was getting submitted that night. Volkanovski is a 145 pounder, you guys. He is the GOAT. Don't get me wrong. I love Volkanovski, but he's a 145 pounder. That's the big win for Islam Makhachev. Charles Oliveira, we can poke some holes there too. That guy's got chin problems. He's had chin problems for a long, long time. So we've got Volkanovski twice. We've got Dustin Poirier. We've got Charles Oliveira. And then we've got Renato Moicano. Now, I know that wasn't his fault that, Renato jumped in for that opportunity. It is what it is. We didn't get the Arman Tsarukyan fight, whatever. But that's kind of a soft run for a 155 title reign, in my opinion. I've always said that Islam Makhachev is not great as far as his boxing defense and his chin goes. I've always felt like he can get tagged on the jaw. And you know what? I should mention, sorry, Yuki and Somo, you're correct, but that was so long ago. It was a tough fight. It was arguably his toughest fight, and it was back in 2019. I wanted them to rematch. I feel like we've been robbed not getting the Arman Tsarukyan rematch, I'll be honest. But Islam, obviously an incredible grappler. He's got pop in his hands when he needs it. But the big thing is his scrambles, his chokes, his submissions, his grappling, the way he takes the back. But I worry about his cardio. Moving up a weight class at 170 pounds, he's adding a lot of muscle. That's going to be something he's not used to. You worry about the type of energy output that you need to keep going with the extra muscle on your frame. It costs oxygen. This will be his first time fighting with that. And you go back to the Alexander Volkanovski fight when he wasn't able to find that early finish the first fight when Volk came in, prepared, not rolling off the couch like he did in the rematch. He was slowing down. Islam was getting tired and failing on takedowns late in the fight. He was hanging on the back for dear life. And Volk was the one doing damage. Like with Islam on his back, Volk was like punching him over his shoulder and Islam was just praying that he can hold on to that position, right? I worry about that kind of situation here if the fight were to go long against Jack Della, because early on, Islam's going to hit takedowns. I posted a picture on social media earlier today, you guys, just kind of reminding everybody that Islam is a training partner with Khabib and with, Belal, and coming up a weight class, he's bigger than Belal. He's the bigger man. Belal went 3 of 9 on takedowns on Jack Della Maddalena and almost won that fight. He's got an argument for having that fight being scored his way. And he hit some, well, okay, all right, fine. It was a closer fight, I guess, than people give it credit for, is the way I should say that. But Belal had success in the grappling, and we've seen people take Jack Della down. Islam, I think, will have more success in the grappling than Belal did, at least early. The thing for Jack Della Maddalena is, frankly, he made the best move possible in this spot. He brought in Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski's helping him prep for this fight, you guys. And that was the one, Art, that got me, because in the first fight, I bet Volkanovski, and I thought there was an argument that Volk won that fight. It was close. But I think Volk is the perfect person for Jack to be training with for this fight, because he's come the closest to beating Islam Makhachev and picking his brain, learning what he did, developing from him, and just being bigger and more physical than him, I think makes Jack Della alive here, because what Jack does really, really well is his cardio, right? He never stops. He never slows down. He's got output for days. He does give up the takedowns. Guys, I think this is a live bet spot. I have to say that I think Islam Makhachev is going to win this fight pre-flop. So, like, if you're making me pick a side and I've got to put $1,000 on it and I don't get to change it or do anything else, I will say I think Islam Makhachev wins this fight, because I have to respect the grappling. I have to respect the takedowns. But I've got a serious, like, hairs on the back of my neck type of feeling that this fight gets real hairy going down the stretch, man. Because if Jack Della can do a little bit of damage, if Jack Della can make Islam work early, he's got finishing ability at 170 that Volkanovski didn't. He rips the body and drains your gas tank in a way that is just, I love it. It's spectacular. The way he hurts people by going to the body and voluming people up. But it's going to be an attritional thing. Islam's got to slow down. Jack's got to be on the feet. You're going to be able to see it happening in real time. I expect Islam to maul Jack Della for the first 2 rounds of this fight. And then it gets interesting. So I'm going to say Islam. But I'm going to be watching extremely closely, because this is live bet Jack Della season all day. If things start to get a little hairy in round 2 and round 3, I'm going to be waiting with my finger over the button. So Islam's the pick for me, at least pre-flop. What about you, Art?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that angle. And I'll start this by saying we saw Jack in Montreal against Belal, and we were big on Jack going into that fight, because one of the things that really showed up on tape Jack's scrambling ability, and he never really settles on bottom. He does get taken down, but he's always scrambling to get back up to his feet. Very hard to hold him down. And so I thought that Jack would actually do more damage on the feet versus Bilal. Bilal would get takedowns, but he's not much of a damage guy. And the thing with Jack is that you can't really get ground and pound off of him because as soon as you let go of the grip, Jack's scrambling up to a feet, using a leg, posting up, and getting back up, right? So it's more about control. And I thought that again, once it's on the feet, Jack does more damage. So we go back and we actually watch that fight. Bilal didn't really come out with a grappling game plan, which was
That
kind of
was so
surprising,
frustrating.
right? And he didn't really shoot a real takedown until maybe like round 3. And so you gave away the first 2 rounds just standing and trading with him, which I don't really understood, right? So I kind of think that we're getting a better price on Jack, or the Jack line's inflated a little bit because he's beating Bilal Muhammad, right? And Bilal Muhammad's supposed to be, this high level grappler, wrestler, trying to get him down, and Bilal couldn't really get him down. I thought that Jack cruised to decision and won all the moments there. But Islam's on a different level than Bilal, right? And I get it; they're both grapplers. I get it, but Islam has a lot better striking than Bilal on the feet, right? And against that Volkanovski fight, was very interesting was that Volkanovski was winning the grappling exchanges, but Islam was winning the striking exchanges, which you sort of thought was going to be reversed, and thought that obviously Islam needed to get the fight down to the ground. But maybe it was just the threat of the takedown that got Volkanovski caught off guard. But Islam is improving with the striking after fight after fight. That's the one area of his game that he needs to improve, and it has been improving. And he talked about it, the extra muscle. Have you seen the pictures of Islam? What he looks like at welterweight? He looks
He looks
absolutely
so
shredded.
jacked, dude. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And so I get your point. Like it's additional muscle that the body isn't really used to holding and going for 5 rounds. Jack will make you work, and he will scramble out of positions. He'll fight for he'll fight for your money, sort of thing. He on the feet, like his boxing is beautiful to watch. He works the body to the head, keeps a high guard. He knows exactly where the distance is. So he's out of distance, then he returns his one counter, sort of thing. He moves back, and again, when he does get taken down, he scrambles. So I give the damage upside to Jack. I think that Jack can make him work, but Islam's just another beast on the ground, and it's one of those things where the tape tells me Jack. And you look at it, and you talked about Volkanovski having some moments against Islam. Even Poirier had some moments against Islam, keeping the fight standing and whatnot. And it's just, do you really want to step in front of Islam Makhachev? And I think Islam is better than Khabib. He has the whole package of takedowns. His striking's better, all that stuff, sort of thing, right? But Jack has a way. I'm not counting it out. Jack also brought in Craig Jones to grapple with him, so he's getting some elite BJJ help for this fight, training get-ups and whatnot. So I could see it being close. I could see Jack being a live dog. I think that if Jack does finish, it's probably going to be late, like you said. I think that Islam could have some moments in the grappling. Well, the other thing I want to talk about is that in Jack's ability to get up. So he does get taken down, but he does get up pretty well, right? And he scrambles pretty well. Part of his get up is getting to his knees, getting back up, where he sort of exposes the neck a little bit. And Makhachev has back-to-back Dariush chokes. He did the same transition against Moicano, where as soon as he locks in, it's like a modified Dariush where he goes forearm to forearm, and then he locks it in, and then Moicano's like insta-taps and went to sleep, sort of thing. It's just the squeeze that Makhachev has. And if you go back and you watch Jack Della Maddalena, he got put into a deep Dariush against Ramazan Emeev. He fought out of it, obviously, but again, the squeeze of Makhachev is completely different. And I think that the scrambling does present the neck at times, where if Makhachev gets to the neck or even the back and the body lock, very hard to get him off of you. So it's one of those things where the tape favors Jack, and I can see a path to Jack. It's just my gut says that Makhachev is just on another level. He just destroys him, and it's like, are you stupid for even thinking about fading this guy? Because he's just on another level. So there are a couple of unknowns, like you talked about, moving up the cardio, all that side, but hard to be confident on either side. I think Jack could be a sneaky dog bet there, but I have to favor Islam here.
Okay. Yeah, man. Everything you said on point, obviously. You do your homework, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we always appreciate Art coming on the show and sharing those kinds of nuggets with us. We're both going to go ahead and pick the favorite here in the main event. I will, however, very skeptically be watching, hoping that Jack Della can pull off some magic. We'll see what happens. This should be an excellent fight card, you guys. Should be a really fun one. Should be a really good one. The way this year has been going, it's been absolutely insane. There have been upsets, and they're not usually the ones you're expecting. So one of these favorites is going to drop the ball. It's going to just come down to who. It's going to be a good night of fights. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Art, my man, one more time, thank you so much for being here. If you want to shout out where these people can find you, where they can support you, where they can find more of your content, the floor is yours, man.
Thanks for having me. As always, Clint, I enjoyed loving breaking down fights. You know, I go deep into the tape study. We run a company here called Fighting Stats, and part of our breakdowns is looking deep into the stats. We have our own data scientists that actually get the stats for us. It's custom exclusive stats that nobody else has. So we can tell you like how often they throw a jab or how often strikes they're throwing southpaw versus orthodox, what position they're on the ground. It helps with the breakdowns when we're looking at how the fight will play out. I'm a more visual guy. Like I don't rely just on the stats, but I compare it with the tape study. And that's what I feel like contributes to the success. We can see sort of game plans, who's going to look for takedowns, right? So we attack some smaller markets with takedowns and strikes. We look at props and whatnot. So we've been having a killer year, again, up 350 units just from betting on UFC, up another 50 some or 100 units live betting on UFC. That's completely different. And we put it all together. So we're hoping to close out the year big. I'll be in Vegas for the last pay-per-view. Come join us there. I'm going to be trying to host a live betting party where I'll be watching. I'll tell you what to bet live in the arena, and hopefully you guys can make some money with me while we live bet. So yeah, as always, appreciate the time, the shutout. We've been doing pretty amazing. So a little bit stalled the last couple of weeks, but we're going to get that back here with this card. Feeling confident on some of these reads here.
Good deal. Love it, man. Love it. Very happy to see your success. That'd be really cool if you managed to pull off a live betting party. That'd be pretty awesome. You guys might close Vegas for the weekend if you did that. Thank you all very much for tuning in on the show. Of course, we will come to you a little bit later this week with the total takedown, Clint's hot props, and the undefeated post weigh-in show. Make sure you leave a comment on your way out the door, you guys. Let me know what your favorite bet for this week is, and I hope you guys kick some ass. These two pay-per-view cards that we've got closing out the year are spectacular. So let's enjoy them and let's make some money. One more time, you guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's roll.
Ciao, boys.